president is also supposed to submit to us on issues of security. How safe are we as a nation? So when we weigh the president's speech, we are supposed to look at the constitutional provisions and ask ourselves whether the president met the constitutional threshold of explaining to the nation the measures that have been taken and the realization or where we have reached with the fulfillment of these requirements. But Mr. Speaker, the president, I think, also took his time to tell the nation that in the 8 years that he has been at the helm of the leadership of this country, 8 years plus, what is it that his government has been able to achieve? And I would say that President Uhuru Kenyatta has had two governments, one which I usually call Jubilee 1 and then Jubilee 2. But he elaborated what he has done since he assumed the office or took an oath to serve the people of Kenya as a president. Now, based on meeting the constitutional threshold, I would rate that the president did well in terms of talking about national unity. And I think that was his opening remarks. The president spoke so passionately about the need for this country to be together, that even though we compete and sometimes we disagree, but we must remember that Kenya is bigger than each one of us, individually and even collectively, that this country must be bequeathed to our future generation, intact, and leave it without destroying the social fabric of this nation. So I think the president was very clear on that. The president also talked passionately about devolution and even mentioned that his government has been able to give not just the 15%, which is the constitutional bare minimum that is provided for, but that the government has been giving 32%, although it is based on historical data, but I think that is a step in the right direction. But what I picked out is that the president was so passionate that we lost an opportunity to give more resources to the counties through a constitutional provision, something that would not be changed by any individual, whether you don't like devolution or not. If we embed it in the Constitution that the minimum is 35%, that 35% will have to go to the counties, whether we get someone who is against devolution as the president of the nation. And so I think this is clearly an opportunity that we lost as a nation. And those who have been telling us out there that we don't need constitutional amendment must reckon with the fact that if we made constitutional amendment, if we agreed to amend the Constitution to anchor the 35% in the Constitution, then it is the people of Kenya who would have benefited from additional resources that would go to the grassroots to spur economic growth. Because, Mr. Speaker, for this country to realize meaningful economic growth, that must come from engineering and spurring the rural economy. That is where there is potential. The biggest potential in terms of productivity in this country is in the rural areas. It is not in the usual traditional urban settings. The urban settings are overstretched, Mr. Speaker. That is why we have slums in our cities, a thing that we must discourage. So, Mr. Speaker, I agree with the president totally that we missed an opportunity to strengthen devolution in this country through constitutional amendments. Mr. Speaker, coming to what the president took a lot of time talking about in terms of his legacy, and we need to listen and agree and understand the president. I heard some of my colleagues say that the president dwelt a lot about what he has done, which is not the constitutional requirement. But we must understand that probably this is the last State of the Nation address that the President Uhuru Kenyatta will give to the people of Kenya. And therefore, it is in and appropriate for him to also tell the country loudly, when the whole world is watching, that this is what I have done. And Mr. Speaker, it cannot be denied that this government has performed well in terms of infrastructural development, in terms of putting together this basic fabric of infrastructure, in terms of roads, even railways, port improvement, whether it is Lamu, Lake Victoria, Kisumu Port, or Lamu Port. I think we would be very mean to President Uhuru Kenyatta if we said he did little. He did a lot. The only thing that Kenyans have been talking about, and that is where I feel a little bit disappointed by the president's speech, that he should have also taken time to talk about the debt level in this country. Because we did all this infrastructural development, but at a cost. And this cost is not just to present generation, it is going to be for future generations. And we know this infrastructural development is likely to bring returns going forward. But we should have mentioned that. The president should have taken time to say, yes, we have incurred a lot of debt, we are heavily indebted as a country, we are struggling to pay, but based on economic projections, after 3, 4, 5 years, this country is going to stabilize. And we are likely to be able to now harvest returns on our investment. So the president missed an opportunity to speak to the people of Kenya who have been complaining about the high debt levels. He should have, with facts, with figures, presented to this House that even though we are struggling to pay our debts now, but based on the returns that we are likely to realize in the coming years, then we will be able to pay our debt. So I thought that is an opportunity that the president missed. Madam Mr. Speaker, I was very happy when the president himself, because we have been fed with a lot of propaganda, a lot of hearsay, a lot of misrepresentation, so to speak, of facts, that from 2018 to date, after the handshake, that this country has, that the attention of the government has shifted to what they call some animal called BBI. Personally, I have not seen that animal. What I saw is a well-crafted proposed bill, which was taken to Kenyans. I saw signatures in their millions. I didn't see animals. I saw this go to counties. The counties approved it. I didn't see animals. It was brought here in Parliament. We approved it with overwhelming majority. We were not animals. But they call it animal, that the attention has been shifted. And the country lost track. But what did the president say here? That for the first time in the history of this country, the second quarter of 2021, we registered the highest economic growth ever witnessed in this country, and comparable to none in the region, 10.1%. That is courtesy of handshake, courtesy of peace, courtesy of the calm political environment that we are seeing today, Mr. Speaker. Where do they get their records? These people who talk out there and start telling us that handshake disrupted government functions and programs. If programs, government functions and programs were not running, how can you achieve 10% economic growth, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker, let's face facts. With the COVID-19, Mr. Speaker, ravaging the whole world, where the world economy shrank, Mr. Speaker, for this country to have held its ground in terms of economic fundamentals, and even to now start realizing such accelerated economic growth, it is because of peace. Mr. Speaker, if we didn't have peace in this country, and then we added to COVID-19, we would have lost the economy of this country. And therefore, I want to speak to those naysayers, those prophets of doom, people who are interested in their selfish interest to acquire raw power. That please, don't discredit something that has brought peace and stability in this country. In fact, I was asking myself, if this President Uhuru Kenyatta, and by the way, Mr. Speaker, to be honest, if there is any president who has been very active in physically inspecting projects since I became an adult in this country, I think it is Uhuru Kenyatta. President Moi was very active, but for different reasons. President Moi was very active in playing politics, not supervising development. President Kibaki could not leave his office and State House. Probably did well because he delegated sufficiently well. But President Uhuru Kenyatta is always out there. You see him in Kawangware, you see him in Kibra, you see him in Lamu. He comes to Kisumu even without giving the local leadership notice. You see him in Naivasha, you see him in Limuru. He's a very active president. And I'm asking myself, if without cooperation from a deputy president, this president could do all this. Assuming his deputy cooperated and avoided politics for 4 years and did politics for only 6 months as he wanted, how much would we have achieved as a country? If we are able to achieve 10.1% with an absentee deputy president, now if we had an active deputy president, very cooperative, working with the president, how much would we have achieved? Probably 15%. And that takes me to this fundamental question, which we must talk about. For us to have stability in this country, there is need to ask ourselves, going forward, what we saw, this experiment we saw with the president and the deputy, is it what we want to see again in this country? If we are not going to amend our constitution, if we are not going to do it, then I think the presidential candidates need to think twice and get deputies, running mates, where they have a chemistry that is perfect, not a chemistry that is forced by circumstances. A chemistry that only suffices because there is some danger you see ahead. Get someone you can work with, someone you are sure will not undermine you, and someone you know you can easily delegate to without any fear or favor. Because I don't think Kenyans are interested anymore in seeing this kind of shenanigans that we saw in Jubilee 2, Mr. Speaker. And please don't blame handshake for it. The handshake came about because of one simple fact. We had almost 2 countries in one. And these 2 leaders decided to shake hands. And we thought both sides would rain on their lieutenants to follow. There are certain things that I didn't like. Mr. Speaker, you did not I'm sure you would not have contemplated in late 2017 that I would stand on the floor of this house and say that Uhuru is a good president. Even greeting him was a problem. But because my party leader told me, buddy, this is the direction to take, as a loyal servant, as a loyal lieutenant, I follow. If I don't want to follow, I announce it publicly that we have severed my relationship with my party leader. But if I still want to call him my party leader, call him my presidential candidate, call him my friend, then I have to find a way of working around him and what he believes in. So, Mr. Speaker, I know I wanted really passionately talk about that. Because, honestly speaking, I'm sure there is no Kenyan who is enjoying the kind of scenario we have. I beg, Mr. Speaker, Intergovernmental Budget and Economic Council is a very important organ in governance of this country. And that is a body that decides and determines even the sharing of government revenue between national and county government. But you hear people are now boycotting, people are not going to attend, people don't attend IBEC because they don't like the deputy president. Honestly speaking, if he's still the deputy president of this country, then you must attend his function, especially if it is IBEC and any other. But the deputy president must also demonstrate that he still want to be the deputy president of a country by working closely with the president. If not, you just resign, my friend. For heaven's sake, Mr. Speaker. If I cannot perform my duties as MP for Suba South, there is no need of earning a salary like a ghost worker. Mr. Speaker, I'm sure even you, your conscience cannot allow you to earn a salary for the office of the Speaker and you feel you are not performing the functions of the Speaker. Your conscience, that the way I know you, your conscience would not allow you. And I'm like you. My conscience cannot allow me to earn a salary as minority leader in this house, and I feel I'm still not doing my functions as minority leader. We have had the worst government in Jubilee 2. Non-functioning, leaving one person to run things, and then they excuse it. My functions were taken and given to someone else. Who is that someone else who was given your function, and given by who? If there's a president who has said it, you just say, no, I'm still going to continue doing my function. I don't think Raila Odinga would give my functions of minority leader here to any other member, even Lilian Gogo here. And then I claim I'm still minority leader, but Lilian Gogo is doing my function. Then why am I earning that salary? If he gives Lilian Gogo my functions as minority leader, what I would do next is to resign. So I don't earn that salary. But you cannot have your cake and eat it. You earn a salary, you live in a government's house, you hold functions, political functions in a government office, deputy president's office, and you are claiming that you are still the deputy president, but your functions have been taken. Contradiction. Finally, Mr. Speaker, let us be honest with ourselves. If you feel this government has not performed, and the president explained his achievements here, he even talked about the Big Four agenda. And I listened to him, he acknowledged that on housing, they have not done very well. But he said they have done very well in universal health care. They have made tremendous progress, a lot with the support of this House. And he also talked about the food security and where I think they have not achieved. Because not all objectives set will be met. But if you feel the president has not performed, say so and stick to that lane. You cannot say today you've done nothing. Tomorrow, oh, this government has done very well. The following day, I am going to ride on our good achievements to win my next seat. How can I claim to have done very well in Suba South? Or that today I'm saying I have not done very well. Tomorrow I'm saying we have done so well that please now re-elect me. You are causing confusion. That is the basic word. Or you yourself, you are confused. Either you are confusing people or you are the one who is confused. So with those many, many remarks, Mr. Speaker, I want to end my statement by saying I thank the President for being candid, honest, truthful, and he opened his heart and even expressed his frustrations to us, especially on BBI. BBI, we will revisit. Let us assume power next year. We will make sure BBI comes back because there are good provisions in that document which we cannot let go. How can some constituencies like Othaya die? We must make sure Othaya is protected even after next general election. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Following the same list, member for Madioya.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity also to add my voice. And on the onset, I would like to support and congratulate His Excellency the President for his State of the Nation address. And for me, Honorable Speaker, I would like to say that His Excellency the President did touch on a lot of issues that have been accomplished in this nation over the last 8 years of his administration. And I do not want to go over all of them, but Your Excellency, we know even how the speech was long because they were enormous. So many things have been able to be accomplished in this country. More so in the last 4 or 5 years, Your Excellency, Your Honorable Speaker. A few of them did come out to me in a very special way. We know that we've had a very difficult time. We've had 2 years where this country, we've had to struggle with the pandemic of COVID-19. And the handling of this by his administration, to me, really did stand out. Even in the most difficult times. The fact that we have been able to contain to a large extent the pandemic and also be able to ensure that our economy, and we are told in the third quarter of the economy was growing at more than 10%. That honestly is exemplary for me. And there are many sectors the President did say that have also, his administration has been able to see accomplishments like roads, in the infrastructure development, for instance, the roads, the ports. We now have a new port of Lamu that is operational. We have new berths that are also working efficiently in Mombasa. We have a railway network that has been expanded across the country. We have even in the other area of hospitals, for instance. The President did say how so many hospitals have been built in the last few years and equipped by his administration. Even the old hospitals here, Honorable Speaker, we have seen a lot done in this sector. And perhaps that's why this country has been able to come out, even though we have not come out of the pandemic, we have largely been able to contain it. Honorable Speaker, there are many other issues like the green energy, that Kenya is now a leading country in Africa in the issue of green energy, and that, for me, is important, knowing that we have now been able to ensure that many people in our rural areas have been connected to electricity, and a lot still continues to be done. Honorable Speaker, even in the water sector, which is very, very important, we have seen a lot done across the country, and that was very welcome. Honorable Speaker, the other area for me that has stood out, you know, me, I come from an agricultural constituency of Madioya where tea and coffee are very paramount. And we have seen in the last few years, the price of tea and coffee has now started to go up. Reasons because of the structural changes that have been made and to ensure that the farmer becomes very paramount, and to ensure that we can even be able to expand our buckets. And for this, we now see coffee almost at 100 shillings, and in some areas even more. Tea is already doing over 60% of what we were earning in the last few years, where it was declining. Honorable Speaker, the small and medium enterprises have also not been left out. And the injection of 5 billion as a seed capital for the SME credit guarantee schemes was also quite touching, because these monies that now can be accessed by small SMEs, particularly those that are started by our youths. Honorable Speaker, we need to have this matter pronounced so that it can reach our youths in the rural area in a better way. Honorable Speaker, we did also see The president did say that his government and administration is enforcing the Buy Kenya, Build Kenya. We have seen even a number of factories that were almost dead now being uplifted, so that they are now becoming very important sectors of our growth, like Kenya Meat Commission. But, an Honorable Speaker, I cannot end by saying the need for peace, the need for unity, the need for security in this country. It cannot be overemphasized by nothing else like than the handshake that we saw, that really brought tranquility in this country and helped us to stabilize the country, so that the growth that we would want to earn continues, even as we go to these elections.
Following the same list, the Honorable Kamoti Mwamkale, member for Rabai.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika kwa nafasi hii. Nami nasimama kujiunga na wenzangu kumpongeza Rais kwa hotuba hii ambayo ni matakwa ya sheria kifungu namba 10 cha katiba yetu, kwamba Rais ametekeleza yale ambayo ameweza kuyatekeleza, na ni lazima yapelekwe kwa wananchi ama watu waambiwe kile kimefanyika. Kwanza, Mheshimiwa Spika, nataka nimpongeze Rais kwa yale aliyofanya kwa upande wa miundo msingi ndani ya nchi hii. Miundo msingi kimombo ikiwa ni infrastructure. Rais amejaribu, ingawaje kuna mengine ambayo akiyafanya atatekeleza ama atawacha wosia ulio kamili. Kwa mabandari, Rais amejaribu. Bandari ya Mombasa ameipanua vizuri na imebadilika sura. Pia ametupatia bandari mpya Lamu. Kitu ambacho tunamuomba Rais akamilishe wosia wake ni kuhakikisha kwamba bandari hizi zinanufaisha wakaazi ambao wanaizunguka ama wanazunguka bandari hizi. Sisi tukiwa wa pwani, kilio chetu ni kwamba hata ijapokuwa bandari imebadilika, lakini kuna kazi zimehamishwa, mambo ambayo yalikuwa yakifanyika pale kama clearing and forwarding sasa zimeenda Naivasha. Tunamuomba Rais akamilishe wosia wake kwa kuhakikisha kwamba yale makazi yaliyokuwa yakifanywa ndani ya bandari ya Mombasa yanaendelea kufanywa na kutekelezwa pale. Katika muundo msingi pia ndio tunashukuru kwamba ameleta SGR, na SGR hii tunataka ipawe maagizo, isiwe tu ni mizigo yote, ni lazima ifikishwe Naivasha hata kabla ishughulikiwe. Ahakikishe kwamba mizigo inayobebwa ni ile ambayo haihitajiki ama wenyewe hawatoki Mombasa. Kwa wale ambao wenyewe wanatoka Mombasa, mizigo ile iteremshiwe bandari ya Mombasa. Huko ndio kujivunia, tutajivunia, Wakenya watajivunia kwamba tuko na muundo msingi huu ambao unatunufaisha. Kwa upande wa mabarabara, tunamshukuru Rais. Ukienda Mombasa saa hizi, ukifika Kibarani, kazi inayoendelea, tuna imani kwamba hii ikimalizika Mombasa itakuwa imebadilika. Hata watu tukimpongeza Rais Kibaki, lakini ukweli wa mambo, ikija kwa mambo ya muundo msingi, hakuna kwa sasa hivi ambaye ametekeleza na amebadilisha miundo msingi kama Rais Uhuru. Ndani ya Rabai, sisi kama wakazi wa Rabai tunashukuru kwamba sasa hivi kuna barabara kutoka Jomvu mpaka kwa Mbaji inamalizika, barabara nzuri, na tuna imani kwamba hata ile ingine ya kutoka Ngutatu ama kutoka Bamburi kwenda Bondora pia itamalizika, na sisi wakazi wa Rabai tujivunie. Ingawaje tumekuwa na pendekezo kwamba kuwe na barabara kutoka Bagamoyo mpaka Kibao Kiche, ambayo hiyo ingerahisisha mavuno ya wakazi kufika kule ambako yanatakana kufika. Pia vile vile tunampongeza rais kwa upande wa afya. Amejaribu, ngawaje yote ambayo aliyaeleza hapa yamefanyika Nairobi. Tunataka akitengeneza zahanati zingine hapa, aende Kisumu, aende Pwani, pia tuone zahanati zingine zikifanyika. Isiwe ndani ya Nairobi County na kwa majeshi peke yake. Hata wale wengine pia hawana mwingine wa kumwangalia, ni yeye. Na hasa upande wa linda mama, hii imegusa watu wengi. Sisi kama wabunge huwa tunafatwa kila mtu anapokuwa mgonjwa, hata mama akienda kujifungua, lakini linda mama kweli imetupumzisha sisi kama wabunge, imepumzisha viongozi na inafanya kazi mzuri. Kwa hivyo tunapongeza na tunasema Mgala muue na haki umpe. Jamani, hakuna aliyekamili. Aliyoyafanya Rais Kenyatta yamegusa wa Kenya. Tupende tusipende, ambayo si lugha mzuri, lakini Mgala muue na haki umpe. Asante sana.
Following the same list, the Honorable Luyai Amisi. Luyai, this must be Caleb Amisi, isn't it? Luyai. You know, these are some of the names which are not known. He's also known as Luyai Amisi. Well, following the same list, the Honorable Kimani Ichung'wa.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. And I also rise, Honorable Speaker, first to congratulate His Excellency the President on his possibly last or second last State of the Nation address, Honorable Speaker. However, Honorable Speaker, even as I appreciate many of the things that the President enumerated, and there are things that we cannot take away from the President in terms of his gains as President and the things, especially on infrastructural development, that he's been able to do. However, Mr. Speaker, we all appreciate, and Kenyans appreciate, that this has also come at a cost to the Kenyan people, especially in terms of the public debt that we have laid on the shoulders of the Kenyan people. To Honorable Speaker, this infrastructure development, Honorable Speaker, was to anchor development that would enable Kenyans to grow further in terms of economic development and be able to provide job opportunities for Kenyans that we have not been able to do that, especially post-2017, Honorable Speaker. And I cannot fail to mention, Honorable Speaker, that many of the things the President enumerated yesterday are things that he was able to do in his first term, 2013 to 2017. Post-2017 and 2018, Honorable Speaker, that is a story for another day, courtesy of what has been christened the handshake. And I know those who want to justify the handshake, Honorable Speaker, may argue differently, Honorable Speaker, but it's a fact of life that when we allow, Honorable Speaker, and especially at a time like this that we are going into elections, that people can use electoral processes, Honorable Speaker, to refuse to accept election results to justify handshakes and christen themselves as peacemakers, Honorable Speaker, that is not the way to go. Honorable Speaker, the President was at pains, Honorable Speaker, to try and justify the handshake and claim that there was a constitutional moment, Honorable Speaker. But respectfully, Honorable Speaker, I did say yesterday, and I want to repeat, Honorable Speaker, that the aspirations for constitutional changes and the constitutional moment the President speaks to was a constitutional moment whose aspirations was by the political class, led by the President and his elder brother, the former Prime Minister, Honorable Speaker. And it has nothing, it had and still has nothing to do with the aspirations of the Kenyan people. Honorable Speaker, the fact that the President touched on matters to do with the economy, Honorable Speaker, and actually went ahead to claim that we are the 6th richest country in the sub-Saharan Africa, Honorable Speaker. Yes, it could be true. There could be a few Kenyans who would easily rank as among the, not the 6th, but the richest Africans in sub-Saharan Africa, and probably rank 6th as the richest 6th in the world, but those are just a very small fraction of Kenyans. The majority of Kenyans are living in abject poverty. The cost of living is at its highest, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, we must also fault, Honorable Speaker, and I want to join those members who faulted the crafters of this speech for His Excellency the President, Honorable Speaker. It looks like there clearly are people in the office of the President and those who do his speeches who are intent on embarrassing the President. Not just writing for him a speech, Honorable Speaker, that he himself he could not even be able to complete because of the length, but also a speech that factually was wrong. If you read clause 164 or 166 of that speech, Honorable Speaker, where the President mentioned the question of KMC, and I've heard the member for Isiolo mention that the off-take program, he has not even seen it in his constituency. And it begs the question, this off-take program, where is it happening? It could be in a few private ranches, Honorable Speaker, again, in the neighborhood of Isiolo and Samburu, and Kenyans may beg to know who are the owners of those private ranches, Honorable Speaker. The other question that he mentioned in that clause, Honorable Speaker, is the savings out of the outlet by KMC, and enumerated that they are now saving 30 million shillings, which translates to 3.6 billion. And the President emphasized 3.6 billion shillings in a year. And Honorable Speaker, a saving of 30 million shillings a year would only translate to 360 million shillings annually, not 3.6 billion. Therefore, I also want to plead with those who are eager to paint the President in a picture that he is not. As they write his speeches, Honorable Speaker, let them also be reasonable, let them be considerate, not to paint the President in a bad picture like they did yesterday, Honorable Speaker. And with that, Honorable Speaker, I want again to restate that that constitutional moment you are being told was by the political class to benefit the political class, and the constitutional moment that will come for the people of Kenya. The people of Kenya will drive their own constitutional amendments that will benefit.
Following the list, the next is the last person on this list, Richard. The members who are present before 1 p.m. And who are on the queue is Honorable Robbie Nyamabe. Honorable Robbie Nyamabe. So from the list of 9 who had been on the queue, it's Odanga, Honorable Luyaya Misi, and Honorable Robbie, who are not present. So now, the next is, if you look at the motion on limitation of time, there was, you did approve that the chairman of Defense and Foreign Relations and the chairman of Labor. So the next chairman is the Honorable Mwadhi. And you have 10 minutes, not 5.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. And Honorable Speaker, allow me with all humility to first congratulate His Excellency the President for the speech that gave us the state of the nation in many sectors, in all-round summary of what he has been able to do from 2013 to date, and specifically to enumerate what his government has continued to achieve and intends to achieve even before he finishes his term next year. Honorable Speaker, I speak on the issues of security, but most importantly, let me start by saying that in this country, I am lucky to have seen all the 4 presidents who have been here since independence. In my youth, the late Mzee Jomo Kenyatta, who died peacefully in his sleep. I also saw and experienced the leadership of the late Honorable Daniel T. Arap Moi. Honorable Speaker, I was here in this parliament when His Excellency Mwai Kibaki was here. And even now, I'm here, Honorable Speaker, when our dear President, Honorable Uhuru Kenyatta, is here. But let me say one thing that I've realized, and I don't know whether it is the nature of us, or the nature of people generally, that other than the late President Mzee Jomo Kenyatta, who died in his sleep while in office, the rest, except Uhuru, was not left. That is Daniel Toroitich arap Moi. And when Kibaki was in power, people were always complaining. In fact, I remember during the inauguration of His Excellency Kibaki, people threw mud at the late President Daniel Toroitich arap Moi. Only a few days later and months to come and claim, Moi's time he did work. Sometimes it's good to appreciate what is done. I was also in this parliament when one member then in 10th parliament stood and said that His Excellency President Kibaki was to be described as General Kugoya for whatever it means. Today, when I go across most of the parts in this country, I find people cherishing the times and the deeds of Honorable His Excellency Mwai Kibaki. I want to borrow from what I have seen in those two instances. And when I hear people throwing stones and talking about how the current president has not performed, and when I measure that, Honorable Speaker, against his own speech, which was written but is factual. Because, for starters, Honorable Speaker, when the president says he has done a dual carriageway from Machakos towards Rironi, which is in Limuru, it's a fact. It's not hearsay. Currently, as I go to Limuru, Honorable Speaker, I am using that dual carriageway. Honorable Speaker, before that dual carriageway came, land there, 1 acre was 10 million. As we are speaking now, 1 acre is 40 million. But I dare say that I had some members asking, why should he talk about tarmac? Are we going to be cooking tarmac for our children? But I want to give them some insight that if you have property, please go and sell because the prices have gone up. Go and sell a small piece. You don't eat tarmac, you get food from that money. So, Honorable Speaker, just like the previous speaker has said, let us appreciate what has been done by the Honorable President. In the security sector, and in the sector that I oversight, Honorable Speaker, it's only in this term. I don't want to hear those people talking about 2013 to 2017 when I was not there, but I know they did something. But let me talk about what I know. That in between 2017 and now, currently, we've been able to place 12,000 graduates on internship program. My own son is a product of that program. And immediately after, those graduates are either attached or taken or absorbed by government ministries. And this is one of the things that the youth are appreciating, that not only are they going to school, but there is one program which is properly crafted by the Jubilee government, led by none else but Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, which has thought about the youth, and that they are doing that internship not only to walk to the places of work, not only to go and work, but also to get a stipend of 25,000 shillings so that they are able to take care of their welfare. And that is a program that has been appreciated. Now, if we do not appreciate such deeds, and we start talking about the debt that we have. I'm just coming from a trip, Honorable Speaker. And I don't know which country in this world that does not have a trip. Members who are complaining about the debt, they've been coming here and they've been asking that we need to allocate money for security roads. Now where do we get money when we have COVID-19 ravaging our economy? And then we also want roads, we want water, we want schools. We were quick to criticize, Honorable Speaker, that the president who is leading the government that has accumulated debt, which is not the only debt anyway, because by the time he came, we had also debt, is not performing. Honorable Speaker, let us say it for what it is, that the Honorable President of the Republic of Kenya, His Excellency Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, only on Monday, and I was in that pass-out parade, presided over the recruits who graduated. We are having 5,000 police officers who will be guarding or giving us security during next year's general election. It's not that he doesn't want to go home. He says, my time will be up in August, but I want peace. I want peace for those people who will be going for elections, and that is why I'm putting this in place. Together with that, Honorable Speaker, I am sure that people know very well that he's been, and he said it yesterday, he's been taking care of the welfare of police officers in the manner that he has reviewed the remuneration, the benefits, the insurance, and so on, so that they are motivated. He has done hospitals. In fact, the other day, with my committee, we went to Kanyonyo, and I want to thank him because when we petitioned, we got 240 million for completion of that hospital. Because those police officers who are guarding our boundaries, our borders, have always suffered casualties. But all the time, they are taken to public hospitals where they don't probably get the important attention that they require because of the specialized nature of their work. But you go to Kanyonyo now, Honorable Speaker, the hospital is there for everybody to see. And not only that, on Monday, he was groundbreaking for another referral hospital on Bagathi. This is the president they are saying is not working. And I know he is working, especially, Honorable Speaker, after the handshake happened. We know before the president got together with the deputy, there was a lot of acrimony. And truth be told, there was a lot of acrimony between the two communities. And the president reached out. Some of us were wondering, because I remember during the 2010 constitution, I was on the same side with the deputy president of no. And I came to learn I didn't know what I didn't know. I came to know something that I didn't know. When he reached out to the deputy president, and he said, we must forget what happened before, and we must soldier on. He went against our own thinking that he would go there. He brought him on board, and there was peace. And then I asked myself, when he goes for a handshake with the Right Honorable Raila Odinga, who is a Kenyan, why must some sections of Kenya start calling him Muganga? Why? Who is a Muganga? A Kenyan is a Kenyan, and we have all the same right. And he can be president. In fact, he will be the president. Because he is magnanimous enough to shelve all his ambition and come and hold the nation together. So, Honorable Speaker, I support what the president said. We are going to work as a nation. Let every Kenyan who thinks right like myself come and we build a nation, and we don't just build tribes and groups. That once we make a nation, we shall have our future generation proud.
Member for Teso North.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for this chance. Honorable Speaker, I also want to take this opportunity to commend and thank His Excellency the President Uhuru Kenyatta for the speech and the State of Nation address he gave yesterday. Honorable Speaker, the State of Nation address, of course, which is mandated within the Constitution Article 132, had a focus on areas which I would like to focus on the issue of values contained in Article 10. Honorable Speaker, some of the values that the report was addressing are values to deal with human dignity, values to deal with inclusivity, and values to deal with equity. And Honorable Speaker, I want to say in that address, the Excellency the President talked about infrastructure as a major component of what his government had done. Excellency, I want to confirm that as part of inclusivity and the issue of equity, Teso North, and generally the Teso community, which is generally regarded as marginalized, were considered in terms of infrastructure development. Since independence, Honorable Speaker, Teso did not have a single tarmac road other than the international road, the A104. But for the first time during this term, two major roads have been constructed by this government of His Excellency, the President, Uhuru Kenyatta. The road from Busia to Malaba is now complete, Honorable Speaker, and the road from Malaba to Kakemer. Honorable Speaker, I used to struggle driving. Sometimes you get stuck on the road. Today, I drive up to home, up to my house, which is in Kakemer. So we need to appreciate what the government has done. And in terms of the other aspect which I want to mention, Honorable Speaker, which His Excellency talked about, the issue of political stability and the issue of security, which my chairman of Administration and National Security has dealt with. Political stability is so important for this country. Honorable Speaker, the kind of illustrations His Excellency the President gave, indicating the ups and downs of this country during elections, clearly indicate that at a time whenever we have elections, we have lost a lot. 1992, 1997, and so on. And whenever we had unity and political stability, like 2002, we had a big leap in terms of economic development and even social development. Honorable Speaker, the issue of political stability behoves the leadership in this country. And I want to urge the leadership, us as leaders of this House and other political leaders, we actually need to be truthful and we need to embrace what brings our people together. Honorable Speaker, I want to conclude on the question of security, which the chairman has touched on. Honorable Speaker, for the first time, and His Excellency indicated, the country has gone beyond the UN standard of 1 to 450 police officers in terms of the standard required internationally. And that is courtesy of the recruitment of over 45,000 police officers to enhance security. Honorable Speaker, I want to once again commend His Excellency.
Member for Garissa Township.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, let me start by saying that the President came to this house yesterday in accordance with the Constitution, and more specifically Article 132, 1B. And this is the fruits of the 2010 Constitution. Mr. Speaker, as a former majority leader, there is absolutely no doubt that the government of President Uhuru Kenyatta, which I played a very key role, has many enormous achievements. Achievements in the infrastructure sector, achievement in the energy sector, achievement in terms of universal health care, and I mean the free maternity, achievement in making sure that for the first time, heavy investment were made since 2013 in our security sector. And that's why Kenya today is more safer than when President Uhuru Kenyatta took over. The investment in our intelligence, the investment in the equipment to our security forces, the investment in our military Kenya Defense Forces, and many, many others. Mr. Speaker, when President Uhuru Kibaki was leaving at the end of 2013, Kenya Revenue Authority was collecting 967 billion shilling. And when President Moi was leaving office, they were collecting annually 200 billion. And I'm sure 2020, Kenya Revenue Authority collected 1.7 trillion. So the achievement of this government and the footprints of this government are found in each and every village in Kenya, Mr. Speaker. Whether it is connectivity to electricity, whether it is water, that is not disputed, Mr. Speaker. But, Mr. Speaker, as a legislature, we must say what government has done and what government has not done. Mr. Speaker, just on the onset, to remind this House, when President Moi was leaving, the annual collection was 200 billion. The GDP at that time was 1 trillion. And the debt that President Moi left for us was at 620 billion. And that was 60% of the GDP. At that time, our population was 33.7 million. Mr. Speaker, when President Kibaki took over, KRA, and by the time he was leaving office, KRA has collected 963 billion. And that is 380% from where President Moi left. Our GDP by then was 6.3 trillion. And that was above, I think, 545% from where President Moi left at 620 billion. But he also left us with a debt of 1.8 trillion. But he reduced, that was 30% of our GDP. Today at 2020, President Uhuru Kenyatta and our administration raised the KRA annual collection to 1.7 trillion. That was 66% growth. Our GDP, Mr. Speaker, was at 2020 8.7 trillion, which is about 31.8%. But our debt, direct debt, was at 8.7, and indirect debt, which is the one that's given to parasitos, at 3.3 trillion. So as of today, we are standing at 11.7 trillion. The achievement of President Uhuru Kenyatta and his legacy, it's not for even him to write it. I saw the newspaper saying, my legacy. The legacy of President Uhuru Kenyatta will be said by the people of Kenya. It will be written by historians. And Mr. Speaker, the issue of corruption, the issue of debt, the issue of extrajudicial killing and disappearance of Kenyans are issues that I hope the president didn't touch. But again, I ask myself, maybe the ones that he didn't read, the speech was too big. Maybe that is where those issues were. But I support, and the achievement of President Uhuru Kenyatta is the achievement of the deputy president. They are together, and we will use it for the campaign of 2022. You can't deny us. We are one. So those of us What is good for Uhuru is good for William Ruto. So if you are from the handshake, you better look for your track record.
Member Vorangwe. Member Vorangwe.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Interesting times, interesting happenings, interesting hearings that they are going to use it for 2022. But Honorable Speaker, I should think that the handshake has run away with it, because at the point where my senior Honorable Duale is talking about having been together, I think there has been quite a bit of mix-up. But I want to take this opportunity, Honorable Speaker, to thank the Honorable President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta for his well-articulated speech, national address on what he has done over the years, over 8 years. And before I make contributions on what transpired yesterday, I want to take this specific chance, Honorable Speaker, to thank Honorable Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta as the President of the Republic of Kenya for the level of composure that he has shown as a president. Honorable Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, Honorable Speaker, is one president who has taken in so much. I should think that for the level of the things that we have seen in this country in the past, especially the last 4 years, where he does things and everyone wants to say that he's not done them. He works so hard and people want to just criticize what he's doing, but he's taken up his composure just to continue working, and he has worked and he laid it bare yesterday on the floor of this House, Honorable Speaker. And among other things, what he was talking about, Honorable Speaker, are things which can be seen. I didn't hear anybody negate when he says that he has done this, and people would say that he has not done them. When Honorable Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, who is the fourth president of the Republic of Kenya, retires from his presidency, at least for heaven's sake, Kenyans will know, they will touch, they will have seen what an expressway is. Yes, we are catching up with the standards of Dubai, Honorable Speaker. So if there is only one single thing, other than affordable health care, other than improved food security, other than improved education in this country, I am looking for that particular specific day when it's going to take exactly 20 minutes to cover more than 40 kilometers in Nairobi. And when we improve infrastructure, Honorable Speaker, I think we go quite a bit. So when a man does a good job, he expresses what he has done with a lot of ease. Even the way he was delivering his speech yesterday, I've never seen a very happy and a calm president. I've never seen Honorable Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta in his warmest condition. He was very relaxed, Honorable Speaker, because he knows he's done a good job. In the backdrop of distraction, in the backdrop of noise, in the backdrop of he's not working, but he delivered his speech saying, this is what I have done in 10 years. And he was able to talk about what he has done to reform our security sector. Which is this country that can stay without improved security? He is talking about the welfare of our security organs. He was talking about what he has done in improving their life condition. And I want to make a special appeal to His Excellency, the Honorable President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, that Rangwe sub-county does not have any police vehicles. Honorable Muigai Kenyatta, please, when you talk about infrastructure or improving the working conditions for police, my OCPD does not have a vehicle, my OCS does not not have a vehicle. My DC does not have a vehicle. Please, the president, please kindly intervene on this matter. You did well, you've done well. We will support you. The handshake is there. It is there to live. My boss said we support you, and the word of Raila Amolo Odinga is law. When he says, we follow. When you still want our support, Honorable President, we will give it to you. Take it up from there.
Member for Samburu.
Sana Mheshimiwa Spika kunipatia nafasi hii niungane na wenzangu kumshukuru Rais wetu Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta kwa kazi ile amefanyia Kenya. Mheshimiwa Spika, kwa ukweli Rais amemtaja area zote katika nchi hii ile amefanyia kazi. Mheshimiwa Spika, kila Mkenya anaona kile Mheshimiwa Rais amefanya. Amefanya mengi katika Kenya hii akati yake. Na ni mzuri pia tujue kama Wakenya. Akati alichukua president, alipata pia akiwa ngumu zaidi. Kwa sababu aliingia president akiwa ako heki, aliingia president akiwa security ilikuwa mbaya. Kwa hivyo miaka zile amefanyia kazi ni miaka 4 peke yake. Miaka 4 ile amefanyia kazi, kila Mkenya achaona hali ya president amefanya. Mheshimiwa Spika, sisi wengine kama kaunti ya Samburu, miaka 50 sisi ilikuwa tukiteremka kuja Kenya, unasema nimefika Kenya. Hatukuona chochote wenzetu walikuwa wameona. Tumeona akati ya rais wetu Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. Tumeona stima ile hajawahi kuonekana. Tumeona lami ile hajawahi kuonekana miaka 50. Tumeona title ile hatujawahi kuona miaka 50. Mheshimiwa Spika, Kenya imeona tofauti kama akati President Uhuru ako usukani. Mheshimiwa Spika, tunajua ametaja idara zote kama idara ya security, polisi, ametaja mahospitali, maofisas wetu wa Kenya wapate mahospitali kila pahali bila alitaja. Mheshimiwa Spika, sisi ndio tunaonanga ofisas wa serikali, mapolisi, majeshi wakiwa wanaumia akati area sapita, akati wanapata idara, akati wanakufa, hakuna hospitali karibu ile anaweza pelekwa. Kwa hivyo hiyo kitu yote Mheshimiwa Spika imegusa sisi roho kuona President Uhuru akati anaretire. Unajua ukiretire huwezi kuretire kama umeenda kufa. Anaretire na baada ataangalia Kenya na macho mawili. Kwa sababu bado miaka yake ni kidogo sana, atakuwa akiangalia. Na pia atakuwa akiona kama Kenya imeenda vibaya, atarudisha pamoja. Mambo zingine Mheshimiwa Spika tumeonea. Mambo ya handshake Mheshimiwa Spika. Mimi ni moja nimetembea kaunti 47 kwa mambo ya handshake kutafuta mambo umoja wa Kenya ili alitutuma tutafute Mheshimiwa Spika. Na Mheshimiwa Spika, Wakenya waliongea na Wakenya wakasema maoni yao kile inaweza kuwekwa kwa sheria ile ipate kulinda Wakenya. Sio yeye alikuwa anatafuta kukataa kurudi ama yeye anataka kupandisha katiba. Wakenya ndio walikuwa wanataka mabadiliko na zile inahusu hawa Mheshimiwa Spika. Na Mheshimiwa Spika, mimi ningependa pia kusema mambo ya BBI bado tunahitaji irudi kwa sababu ni ya Wakenya, sio ya mtu binafsi. Wakenya ndio walikuwa wametoa maoni yao. Na pia tunashukuru Raila Amolo Odinga kwa sababu kama sio handshake yake Mheshimiwa Spika hatungefika hapa sahi. Kila mtu anajua, lakini ikiwa upeani usemi asanti, Mungu naye atapatia mtu asanti kile amefanyia wengine. Na tunasema Mungu alinde President Uhuru na aendelee na hiyo roho na ashikilie Kenya, hata kama ataenda retire, aendi kufa, atarudi tu. Na mimi nataka kuambia kama ilikuwa katiba ingepandilisha, tungesema arudi miaka ingine 5, Kenya ingeenda mbele. Asante sana Mheshimiwa Speaker kwa hiyo, na ninashukuru na ninasema asante.
Member for Arienda.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I wish to contribute to this motion and state that this was a constitutional imperative well executed. So well executed, Mr. Speaker, that in addition to the 3 reports that are required by the Constitution, the President gave an additional report on the business climate reforms. But in addition to that, beyond the 1 year that is required of the Constitution, the President took us through the 8 years of his presidency. That is beyond the call of duty under the Constitution. Mr. Speaker, the President covered 12 key areas. We all had them. But of interest to me, first is to the extent that it covered the issue of security, including security of the person, including security in terms of the 2022 elections, but also importantly, in terms of our territorial integrity. Mr. Speaker, the President didn't cover he covered the economy, the performance of the economy, the issue of utilities, water, electricity, and efforts that have been taken towards reduction of the cost. Perhaps in future, it would bear to note that it's important to also talk about the issue of unemployment, which has become quite rampant in our country. Mr. Speaker, the President also talked about infrastructure, and we must commend the President and this government that they have tried in terms of infrastructure, especially on roads, and especially on the railway line, the SGR, and also on issues of tertiary institutions, particularly TTIs. Even though in some instances, for example, in my constituency, the roads have stalled and the TTI has stalled, but we have petitioned. Further to that, Mr. Speaker, I think at some point, other than pointing out the development in terms of infrastructure, we will also have to focus on the equity and distribution of that infrastructure. The President didn't touch on, he touched on international relations and observed an observation I agree with, that it does not bode well to just close borders because COVID will invade us anyway. It is the practices that we observe internally. But more importantly, was his favorite refrain, not an inch more, not an inch less. A refrain I fully agree with. In terms of Article 10, Madam Speaker, it covers national ethos, it covers national unity, it covers issues of inclusivity and equality. So those who fault the President for having talked about what could have been gained in the BBI document are forgetting that the Constitution requires the President to talk about the national values in Article 10. You cannot talk about the national values in Article 10 if you will not talk about sharing of power, if you will not talk about equality, if you will not talk about participation of the people. It was therefore a constitutional imperative that the President talks about these things. Whether you agree or not is a different matter. For my part, I agree with the fact that he spoke about them and with the manner in which he spoke about them. It should be remembered that when the President talks of a lost opportunity, it is not a lost opportunity for the President or for those who support him. It is a lost opportunity for all of us in this country. And therefore, when the President says that the good ideas in BBI will be back, that is merely a prophecy. But it's a prophecy that must come to pass in two respects. One, although the Court of Appeal pronounced itself, the Court of Appeal did not pronounce itself on the substantive proposals in the BBI document. The Court of Appeal pronounced itself and focused on certain procedural issues. Those procedural issues can be addressed at any time. In any event, we cannot suppose that the Supreme Court, before whom the matter now lies, will agree with the Court of Appeal. The Supreme Court may as well set aside all the observations and orders of the Court of Appeal.
Secondly, the pronouncement of the Court of Appeal cannot be a death knell to the ideas in the BBI. Ideas cannot die. Those ideas, in any event, whether we resurrect them before the next election or after the next elections, will come to pass. Lastly, Madam Speaker, as I wind up, I think that the speech was good, but it was a bit too long. Those who write the president's speech should make it a little shorter or have an abridged version and the long version. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Very well, and thank you, the member for Orienda. Allow me to give now the floor, as per the request list, to the member for Sako, the Honorable Raso Hali. The Honorable Raso.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I want to congratulate the President for his address to the nation yesterday. In line with Constitution Article 132. From the onset, I want to recognize what I would consider to be positive, effective, and things that were achieved during his presidency, particularly in the area of electrification and connectivity. From my own experience as a legislator representing the constituency of Saku, we have many villages that today have electricity that hitherto were actually in the dark. Madam Speaker, the other area is on international obligation. I really want to congratulate the President for the ascendancy of Kenya to be a non-permanent member of United Nations Security Council. It was a watermark achievement that we are able to sit at the international level with big powers and make important decisions that affect the whole world. Madam Speaker, the engagement of KDF to take part in nation building, when you look at KMC, NMS, Kenya Railways, these are very significant achievements that we have gotten as a country by engaging KDF positively. And I think going forward, it is important for this country to understand the military is about discipline, it is about honor, and it is about patriotism. And this is what our men and women in uniform and the top brass within that institution have demonstrated. Going forward, what I advise His Excellency the President and the President who will come after him, who I strongly believe will be the hustlers, is to make sure that the top leadership of Kenya must attend a short course at the National Defense College to clearly understand what are the issues about Kenya. How are they, why is the military performing so well, and why is it the best institution in this country? Madam Speaker, there are areas that I really anticipated the President to talk about, particularly in the area of security. As one person who is representing a constituency that has had significant insecurity problems, particularly in terms of deployment of enough boots on the ground, enough officers to look around and combat bandits, to recover people's properties, to be able to pursue killers, then I think on this end, we as the people of Marsabit, and in particular Saku constituency, we expected a lot from the President to this end. As far as the Office of the President and Interior is concerned, I don't wholly blame the President. I blame that office. and the person who is occupying that office should not sleep on the job, because Kenya is at peace when all parts of this country are safe. Finally, Honorable Speaker, it is about farming and drought. We expected the President to talk about it, because on issues like offtake and others, nothing appears to be happening. On BBI, Unity of the Republic and Handshake, I think the jury is still out on this. With those remarks, I just beg to support.
Very well. The member for Kwanza constituency, the representative of the people of Kwanza constituency, you have the floor, Honorable Wanyonyi Kevin.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I want to take this opportunity to thank His Excellency, the President, for all that he mentioned. Of course, it was not 100%. We are just reviewing, but I think he did what he could. I want to agree with my brother here, Molo, that the speech was a bit too long. I think we may have left out some things that were important or issues that Kenyans wanted to see. But that in all, I want to say that he has done well. I want particularly to talk about the mention of BBI. I signed for that BBI. And I think it's only fair that the Kenyans are given a chance to look at it again, review where we went wrong, review cases which actually were good, because we said in that one, and he said it yesterday, that the winner take it all is an issue, because once you become the president, you do what you want. We want to spread out the power so that it can be able to have inclusivity in the leadership of this country. And therefore, I quite agree with him that they should be able to do something about it. And please, when it comes to this House, we will be there to support the review of the BBI. Secondly, Madam Speaker, he didn't talk so much about maize. The mainstay of the economy, mainstay of the food in this country is maize. I come from Trans Nzoia, and I keenly waited. There was nothing mentioned of the maize. There's a mention of tea. Of course, we have done very well, and coffee, but tea, maize, which is a mainstay food in this country, was not mentioned. The farmers are so discouraged out there. Farmers are now not very keen. Given the climatical changes in this country, something should be done on the pricing of the maize and the inputs of the maize, which again, His Excellency the President did not mention. However, rural electrification he mentioned, I think he has done well, even in my own area, because with rural electrification, you actually creating jobs for the youth. There are no jobs in this country, and therefore, I think we should actually, whoever is going to take leadership of this country, should take that as a very, very important area that we actually are looking forward to, so that can be able to create more jobs for our youths. Again, the infrastructure, of course, he has done very well in terms of the railways and what have you, highways. But in my own case, I have a problem, Madam Speaker. We did a road, and that road supposed to have been completed to connect with our neighboring states, Uganda, but it only went for about 11 kilometers and stopped. To date, there's nothing. From 2018 up to now, I don't even know who to go to. So I'm wondering whether this is actually a preference on the infrastructure, because I know for sure that some areas are getting roads, very high, the modern roads, and some of them are actually they are even constructing new roads. Why can't this country, why can't we have this network all over the country, and particularly in my area, where I think the road are stalled, and in this house, we said that constituencies that do not have tested tarmac should do that. That's exactly what happened. But the road now has stopped, and some areas, I'm afraid, I can
managed to deliver all this that people are really talking about, despite the challenges that we had as a country following pandemic.
Yeah, you've done well. You've done well.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for this opportunity. And I have to say that the President's State of the Nation address yesterday was both underwhelming and disappointing. Because we came here with great expectations that the President would say something around agriculture and farmers. Because, Madam Speaker, as you know, agriculture forms the backbone of our economy. But unfortunately, issues around farmers were relegated to ETCs and AOBs. First of all, Madam Speaker, the President was not factual to insinuate to this House that tea farmers are having their best year in a decade or so. In fact, tea farmers are crying out there because the kind of prices they faced this year is disappointing and actually lower than many of the years back, Madam Speaker. Also, I expected the President to take over and to take up the speech from where he left in the last year, Madam Speaker, where he talked about the cherry fund of our coffee farmers. But, Madam Speaker, unfortunately, cherry fund is just in papers and in the files of CS Monya. Insofar as farmers are concerned, there is no such money that has reached to their pockets, Madam Speaker, to be able to spur their farming, and especially in terms of coffee farming. Madam Speaker, also, there was a contradiction of facts, because in some ways, you could feel like we are in some Netflix video, Madam Speaker, here in this Parliament, because the reality that was portrayed by the State of the Nation address yesterday is very different from the real reality out there. Because Mr. President talked about fertilizer prices having gone down. But unfortunately, Madam Speaker, the reality, and anyone can do spot checks around, is that fertilizer prices are actually on their highest prices, Madam Speaker, in history. And therefore, it was not right for the President to give us wrong figures when majority of the people we represent, and especially farmers, are out there waiting for real solutions from this House. Madam Speaker, also, it was disappointing because I heard the President say that he took over the economy when it was around 4.7 trillion Kenya shillings. And he went ahead to say that currently our economy is standing at around 11 trillion Kenya shillings. But, Madam Speaker, even using the same government data that we are given in this House every year, Madam Speaker, in the year 2013, our economy grew by just around 5.8%. In 2014, it grew by around 5.3%. On average, so that I don't tire this House with a lot of figures, the economy of Kenya has grown compounded by an average of 5% every year from 2013. Madam Speaker, this is not miracles and it's not rocket science. Any Kenyan can take up their calculator and compound 4.7 by 5%, Madam Speaker, in the last 8 years. And what you'll get as an aggregate is just around 6.8 trillion Kenya shillings. And therefore, Madam Speaker, for the economy to have grown to 11 trillion, the Kenyan economy ought to have grown by 10 to 11% per annum compounded for the 8 years. And therefore, Madam Speaker, Kenya ought to have been praised out there as the highest growing economy in the world. Disappointingly, Madam Speaker, if you compound the average, as reported by this government, it comes to approximately 6.8. And therefore, either the President's speech was wrong or the data provided by this government is wrong. Lastly, Madam Speaker, because I can see my time is almost up, the issue of debt. The President talked about kilometers of road, connections of electricity. we have borrowed a net of over 10 trillion. Madam Speaker, a proportion of that can do much. If we just tarmac actually double, that is 20,000 kilometers, that's 1.2 trillion. Madam Speaker, if you connect the 10 million households to electricity, that is 350 billion. If you connect water 50,000 per household, that's 500 billion. If you actually do a level 6 hospital in every constituency, that's 290 billion. Cumulatively, that's around 3.32 trillion, Madam Speaker. If you throw in a trillion for the other people to steal, it also leaves over half of the money that we have borrowed, Madam Speaker, that cannot be traced. We do not know where that money is. Madam Speaker.
The member for Matayos, the representative of the people of Matayos.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. From the onset, let me also say that I'm pleased with the address by the head of state yesterday. And Madam Speaker, we want to really appreciate that the President, in his humility and wisdom, decided to do a handshake with the Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, which has created some peace and some order in the country, which was not there before. Madam Speaker, this was good ground, good environment for economy to grow and for the government to perform its duties. It is from this, Madam Speaker, that I really say that the President was guided by God and wisdom. And Madam Speaker, we can also go through the books of history and remember that had this been done before, this country would be much, much ahead. We do remember that the Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga did that kind of thing with the late President Moi at one time. He later on also did that after the 2002 elections with the retired President Mwai Kibaki, and even now. And this is the kind of thing that we want leaders to emulate, even after our elections, so that we have a country that is moving together. We have to accept sometimes the results as they are declared. Madam Speaker, in the handshake and later on the BBI, the issue of inclusivity is quite important. And I was happy with the President's address when he really mentioned that we need to revisit the contents of the BBI. And I'm sure that this will be done when we have a new President coming in and some organization in government, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, on the issue of infrastructure, it is true that a lot has been done during President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta's term, or 2 terms, and we really appreciate. But we also want to say that we need this to be cascaded to all other parts of the country. When we walk around Nairobi, we're happy. Of course, Mwai Kibaki did the thick road. We are seeing the express way here, and quite a number of good roads around the counties that are around Nairobi, mostly in Central and so on. But you move to the rest of the country, like Busia, which is the entry and exit to our neighbors in Eastern, Central, and even Western North Africa. There are no roads. It doesn't really help to have good roads only around the city, and then outside, we don't have roads connecting to those other nations. For any country to grow, and it was stated here by Honorable Manje, for industrialization to take place, for manufacturing to get itself embedded and entrenched, we really need to have a transport system working. And we will not only have that transport system or infrastructure working only around a certain region or the city and so on and so forth. If you open up the roads in Busia, for instance, we have 3 borders, Busia border post, Malawa border post, and the one that Mzee Kibaki came to launch at Mluanda. All of them have no roads. You get to Busia, you wonder if Kenya National Highways Authority is doing anything in this country. There's very little that has been done. We needed to open up those bypasses, like from Mundika to Mayenje to the border post, and the other one from Mundika to Kemodo to Buteba on the border with Uganda, and expanded the one in Balaba. And you know the roads and borders of Busia carry a lot more trade than any other in this country, and they should not be relegated to any second spot. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The member for Gatundu North Constituency, the Honorable Kibe Wajiko.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for granting me this opportunity to also go on record and congratulate His Excellency the President, indeed for a very good State of the Nation address. And Madam Speaker, if you allow me, from the village where I come from, we have a famous saying that says, a human being, if you allow me to translate, will always count what has not been given, but they rarely count what has been given. And listening to my friend in age mate, Dede Nyoro, Mheshimiwa Dede Nyoro.
Your age mate?
Oh, yes.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes. I think, I feel like he has chosen to count what has not been given, but not what has given. And just to highlight just a few, and without being repetitive, Honorable Speaker, I think our President, and I'm very, very happy that I woke up on that day and put my vote where it mattered, that he has proved that he's a man and a president who loves this country, not just this country, but one who loves Africa. He's a Pan-Africanist, and also he has put this country in the global map. And if we look at the kind of developments that are going on, Honorable Speaker, and you can see that from where we are coming from, it's important when you're looking at change and transformation that first of all you have to look at where we are coming from and where we are going, where we are and where we're going. And I think the President took over to that President, Honorable Moi Kibaki. And we know how the country was at that time. And I think he came in with a vision to build on what had been done, and that's the reason why we have been able to see a lot of progress, a lot of developments going on, Honorable Speaker. I think it is important, however much someone may, you hate or you love him, it's good to give credit where it is due. Honorable Speaker, I want to highlight the issue of agriculture because I come in from an agricultural constituency, Gatundu North, and I think I've been very involved in the kind of transformation that is going on, happening in the sectors of especially tea and coffee. I've always tried to participate where I can. I've even tried to bring in my farmers so that to ensure that they are able to benefit in the cherry fund. But I think it's very exciting and the farmers are very exciting. So when someone comes in to say that the president didn't really know what he's talking about, I think there's witness. I mean, we are witness. We have been able to witness what has been happening. There's a lot of the things that are happening, transformation. And for me, I will sit here and give him an A- for the job that he has done. Not to say that we cannot do more. I give, you hate or you love him, it's good to give credit where it is due. Honorable Speaker, I want to highlight the issue of agriculture because I come in from an agricultural constituency, Gatundu North, and I think I've been very involved in the kind of transformation that is going on, happening in the sectors of especially tea and coffee. I've always tried to participate where I can. I've even tried to bring in my farmers so that to ensure that they are able to benefit in the cherry fund. But I think it's very exciting and the farmers are very exciting. So when someone comes in to say that the president didn't really know what he's talking about, I think there's witness. I mean, we are witness. We have been able to witness what has been happening. There's a lot of the things that are happening, transformation. And for me, I will sit here and give him an A- for the job that he has done. Not to say that we cannot do more. I give that A- bearing in mind that there have been major challenges. It's also good to know, Honorable Speaker, that the president is the first president who was able to implement the new constitution, which has had challenges. We've had the issues of COVID, which have been challenging to this country, but our economy still is strong, and Kenya is now in the global scene. With those few remarks, Honorable Speaker, I do support and want to congratulate the president. And where I come from, we are saying, when he gives us the direction, we want to follow what direction he gives us or guide us so that we ensure his legacy will go in the right, be in the right hands. Thank you very much. Very, very much.
Let me have the member for Runyenjes, the Honorable Jiru Muchangi, the member for Runyenjes constituency.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity to add my voice to the State of the Nation address yesterday. And Madam Speaker, I need to state by saying that I was seated here listening carefully to the discussions and to the answer that was being given yesterday. And of concern to me, Madam Speaker, is the emphasis that the President made on how his government or this government has expanded the road networks in this country and the infrastructure, including the port and the expressway. And Madam Speaker, I need to state that this effect has not been felt across all the areas in this country. And specifically, I'm mentioning Embu County and Runyenjes constituency. Because, Madam Speaker, I know there are roads that have stalled from 2015 and have not been completed to date, including Kieni, Kadanjure, Karurumo. So when the ports and the expressway and the Mau Mau roads are mentioned, and even the dual carriage, the Keno, Maroa Road are being mentioned, we the people of Embu do not feel like we have been attended as we should have been sorted by this government. Because actually, there is a road from Kararetiri to Rokoriri, to Kadageri and to Kigumo, a road that is next to the forest, and actually next to the road is the trench that was dug by the Mau Mau fighters. But that road was left out and has not been tarmacked, and that is a road that we would like to see done. Then secondly, Madam Speaker, is the issue of the tea earnings. Madam Speaker, I am a tea farmer, and my constituents, half of them are tea farmers and coffee farmers. and I can confirm to this House that the effect of the sales that were mentioned in the President's address are not being felt in the constituency by the tea farmers. And we would like to tell the President to ensure that these prices that we are being told of that are good currently, we would like to hear those good stories from the tea farmers themselves, that they are getting the benefits. Because as a tea farmer, previously, a couple of years ago, we have been paid 58 shillings per kilogram. And last year, or this year's tea bonus, we were paid only 30 shillings. And I need to confirm that my tea factory, Rukuriri Tea Factory, is the best tea factory in the country, but it only got paid 30 shillings per kilo. Yet the same factory has paid 58 shillings per kilo a couple of years ago. So we would like to feel the impact of the progress that the President is talking about, so that all of us can really celebrate the earnings, or rather the gains that this government has made. So with those few remarks, I support.
You support. Then we have the member for Daragwa, General Jeremiah Kioni. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for that opportunity. For 8 years, the President and the Jubilee government has managed to do what others had not managed to do for well over 123 years. Madam Speaker, it was a great opportunity for us to listen to the President. Some of us who have been keen to listen to others were getting a little concerned, because all that we were being told is that nothing has been done. And without doubt, the President did not cover all that we know, and for the reason that perhaps there wasn't enough time. One of the astonishing things, Madam Speaker, that I would want to mention for the record is that in my constituency, we have had the Ministry of Water under the Waziri and the PS, through the National Irrigation Agency. They have done what we call the water pans. Before the commencement of this exercise by Jubilee government, and under the direct management of Uhuru himself, the President, those water pans were being done at a cost of 180 million shillings each. In my constituency, 2 were done in the recent past at the cost of 18 million shillings each. Just note the difference. We were doing them at 180 million. And when they were being done 2 years ago, the same amount of excavation was done at 18 million shillings. Look at the theft of public resources that was going on. So when you hear the President saying that we were losing about 2 billion shillings on a regular basis, it's not through other means. It's because people who had been entrusted with those offices were stealing through the laid-down channels by corrupting the channels and not doing what was expected of them. He also gave us the example of Kenya Meat Commission, where before the coming on board of Kenya Defence Forces, we were collecting only 8,000 shillings a day. But with the Kenya Defence Forces being on board and being in charge, we are doing 1 million shillings a day. How more, or how much more would somebody want the President to demonstrate how the changes that have been done just by having honest people on board? This country can achieve a lot, but what is lacking is the honesty of those who have been charged with the responsibility to manage our affairs. And I want to include ourselves in that. When we've been elected into office, I think it is always fair that we devote the time that we have in helping improve the lives of the people who voted for us. But when we spend all our time again doing campaigns even before the time is right for it. We waste people's time, and we also are dishonest in all our ways, because you cannot campaign for all the time you are supposed to have been offering leadership, and in essence wasting people's time. Madam Speaker, look at it again. We had the very difficult scenario in this country, like it was everywhere else in the world, of the COVID epidemic. But under the management of the president, we were able to come out best. We came out better than many nations. But even still, we had companies that seized the opportunity, and they became exporters of products from this country because they saw an opportunity to do something differently than we have done before. We have talked about roads, and I agree, in my constituency we have roads that are under construction. They will certainly not be complete by the time we do elections next year. And I hope that we'll have done more. We want to do more. We are doing 106 kilometers of road. We would want to do another 100 kilometers of road under the new government. But it is a question of who is it that we entrust with the next government. And it is important that we check around and see who has those safe hearts. If you ask me, I can tell you, and I have said it before, and I want to say it again, that I believe that the handshake was the direction that was given to us. It is through the handshake that we have been able to achieve all that was said yesterday, and we can achieve more if we give ourselves that opportunity again come 2022. I thank you.
Let me have the member for Keyo South, General Rono Kipko Gay. General Rono, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to also weigh on the state of the nation addressed by our President. It's true, Honorable Speaker, that the Jubilee government has achieved quite some growth in our economy. And this is attributed a lot to the first term between 2013 and 2017. Needless to say, a few developments have taken place certainly from 2017 to date. We are told 11,000 roads were tarmacked. And it's good to get to know where exactly these tarmac roads are. I don't challenge that they could be existing, but there is a lot of inequality in this tarmacking of roads. Because there are some areas you find, for example, in my constituency, a road that was to leave my constituency all the way to Tot, where it would open areas to avoid this cattle rustling that you hear day in, day out, would have been opened by now. But because we were in the wrong side of history, as you all know, because we were not part of this handshake animal, we actually suffered as a county. We could not get that road. We take, for example, the dams now, for example, Kimwarer and Aror. It was politicized, not because of anything. That is how government have been doing their projects. That's how they signed their documents. If you look at Itare Dam, that is the game that was used to get the money from abroad. But because of politics, because we were not in this handshake anymore, our projects like Kimwarer and Aror were demonized. Honorable Speaker, we take, for example, now, if I go back to the roads, we have a road that, for example, that is supposed to move from Kipsau's down to Kapkayo, and it was supposed to move to a place called Msea. but
Order.
it was cut short
Honorable
because
member.
we are.
Order, just 1 minute, honorable member. Do I see an intervention by the honorable member for Tiati? Who spoke? Yes, honorable member for Tiati. What is?
Madam Speaker, this is a house of record, and I do not like when members deliberately.
So what is out of order? Can you state
Is the member in order, Madam Speaker, to mislead the House that the road from Loruk to Tot to Marich Pass is not being done yet? Madam Speaker, the awards have been given, and I'm aware that the road is already beginning. And misleading the House that the only reason the road is not being done is because it's Tanga-Tanga.
No, you are out of order. You are out of order. You know, you got your time, you spoke to the address. Honorable member for Tiati. It's important for members for us to understand. You spoke. If you have the paperwork, if you know that it was started, and you're even on record yourself saying that it has not started, the member is right to debate. Maybe you'd approve to him, or I don't know how you know, and he doesn't know. So that's for another day. So, honorable member, please carry on.
Honorable Speaker, I think my colleague was in deep slumber because I mentioned the road from my KO constituency called Msea going to Tot, where it's called Marakwet. Him is talking about Kachaliba's area and Baringo area, which is actually totally out of order. We need to inform him, and that's why he's fleeing actually, because he knows he's misleading the House. Honorable Speaker, I hope you'll refund the minutes that the honorable member has actually wasted. We've been told the economy has expanded. We want to be told how many jobs were created. Our youth are unemployed as we are talking now. Virtually no movement in this country has taken place to employ the unemployed. We have quite a number of unemployed youth. We want to be told by the president, even if the GDP doubled, then the number of youths should equally have doubled in terms of employment. We have been told about health care, that by 2022, we will have achieved what we call universal health care. But it's not mentioning the fact that hardly there are drugs in our counties, in our hospitals, in our health dispensaries, and so forth. There are no drugs. And this is actually as a result of the famous COVID billionaires, the cancer thieves. So he is not talking about how we should address these cancer thieves, which are the cause of actually our county hospitals not having drugs. Honorable Speaker, we've been told we have achieved political stability as a result of the handshake, but he's forgetting to bring everybody on board in this handshake. He left other areas in this handshake. We have been told, because this instability was man-made.
Member
this
for
is
Kenya South, honorable member for Kenya South, you love your time. But let me have the intervention from the member for Kiambu. Honorable member for Kiambu, on intervention.
Madam Speaker, is it in order for the honorable member to mislead this House when he says that the government has not done any or has not any intention of making youth employment, while we know very well that the government has engaged Kenya youth employment?
For Kiambu, no. Remember, Kiambu, you love your time, and you love your time to debate on this. If you have facts, if you know what the government has done, what it has done or not. And members, please allow me also, and as I did the last sitting, just guide the House. Please do not just rise up on a point of order
And Honorable Speaker, you kindly grant me more time because the issue of political instability, Honorable Speaker, was man-made. This is an individual who could not accept results of an election. He was beaten in an election with the result that he was targeting an handshake so that he can go through the back door to be in government, which is wrong. We should never allow this. We should never encourage this. We want to have elections and we respect the results of an election. The BBI regret that where the president is actually regretting that it died. I wish to say that let BBI die a natural death, because a good number of issues can be achieved through administration, through parliament here. We can actually raise the allocation of the counties from 15% to 30 to 35%.
Very well. Let me have now the member for Nyeri Town, the Honorable Bugungujiri. The Honorable.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I appreciate you giving me an opportunity to stand up and comment about the President's State of the Nation address, and especially to support a lot of the things that he raised. First and foremost, Madam Speaker, I want to point out that in any given circumstance, you have an option. You can give somebody a glass of juice that is 3/4 full, and they can decide that they're going to focus on the quarter that is not there, and they're going to complain about that particular quarter. And what we saw, and for those of us who are in this house, we are all operatives of politics, that we know politics is not a perfect business. You can never get 100%. In fact, if you get 65, 75%, you're doing extremely well. We listened to the President yesterday as he articulated what his government has done. Madam Speaker, there's one thing that I feel is very understated. The last time I got a 411 update on vaccinations in the country, I was informed that we have close to 6 million or above 6 million Kenyans who have been vaccinated. And I don't know whether we understand the capacity and the cost of vaccinating 6 million Kenyans at no cost. The government has been able to do this. People across the country have been able to access COVID vaccinations. And this is something we're supposed to be celebrating and acknowledging as an achievement of this government. Madam Speaker, when you go to the President's State of the Nation address specifically, you see how this particular president turned a crisis into an opportunity. I come from Nyeri Town constituency. During the COVID pandemic, when it was at its highest, we had 4,000 young men and women working every day under Kazi Mtaani in just that one particular constituency. And this played a major role in keeping the community going, in reducing opportunities for misbehavior among these particular young people. People were earning some money, people were busy, and this is something that we need to appreciate. Madam Speaker, it is also important for us to appreciate that we have had an extremely volatile political environment in this country over the last 3 years. Madam Speaker, sections of the executive, sections of government decided that they were not going to work and they were going to spend the period campaigning, and left the president and part of his government being the ones who are working. Despite this,
And despite the fact that we looked like we were running into a campaign at any given time, the president was able to steady the country, keep it going. We have had people shouting politically every particular weekend and every week, and it has not affected at all the social structure of this country. It hasn't affected at all the economic structure of this country. It hasn't affected at all how people relate with one another. That is a massive achievement, Madam Speaker. I have listened to some of my colleagues complaining about being left out of the handshake. Madam Speaker, the handshake of 2018 was between protagonists of a political competition. This political competition that happened in 2017 was between two people. I don't understand why some people feel like they were left out. They were not part of that particular conflict, unless they want to be part of it. In addition, and this is now where it is important for us to remember, the humility that is required to do what the partners of the handshake did tells us their commitment to this country. They were able to come down from their high horses, or both of them. Each of them felt a certain sense of entitlement or their position. They came down. And for the sake of this nation, they reached out to each other. Madam Speaker, the importance of that and the lesson that that teaches us is that for us to move our country forward, we must be willing to step down from hard-held positions and be able to listen to the other person. This is one of the achievements of this particular president. There was a major articulation in point form of the economic infrastructure. Kenya looks like a construction site. In this town, you drive around, you look like you're in the middle of a construction site. That is something that we cannot underscore. So, Madam Speaker, mine is to congratulate the president for what he has done. I know he still has another couple of months to finish, and I know he will finish strong. And as he finishes strong, we'll be able as a country to decide who takes over from him to continue the good work that he has done. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Very well. The Honorable Kingola Makau, the member for Mavoko constituency, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this moment to comment on the President's speech. Madam Speaker, I thank the President. Yesterday, he cut out his speech into three: economic, social, and political. Madam Speaker, when I listened to the President, he spoke of his achievements. And right now, as I stand here, I'm one of the happiest people out of those gains. The Nairobi Expressway from Mlolongo, Madam Speaker, after it's completed, he himself said to take about 22 minutes to be in this town. That one, I say, is a tick. Number two, Madam Speaker, I know the road network, the water, the electricity connectivity. The President was categorical, and he highlighted all the areas that Kenyans are benefited. In fact, if you listen to the President, he spoke of two terms. The first was government, and the second was him. Madam Speaker, if you listen to the President himself, on his own, he's achieved more than what the government did since 2013. Therefore, economically, Madam Speaker, I think the President was to the point and rightfully so. On social, Madam Speaker, the President spoke of Kazi Mtaani. I want to say here, I can witness that. Mavoko constituency alone had 4,500 young men and women, youths, benefiting from the Kazi Mtaani initiative. Madam Speaker, that not only mitigated the COVID hard time that came with it, but also made our youth be busy. Number three, Madam Speaker, when the President spoke about politics, indeed, I listened to him very carefully. Madam Speaker, the President himself, by him offering to go for a handshake, was a way of bringing sanity in this country. And when I hear people saying that he went to see Raila for his own sake or his benefit, I categorically disagree with that. Because, Madam Speaker, from March 2018, some sanity developed in this country and business resumed. He even highlighted how much money we lost in terms of man hours, in terms of lost opportunities. But after handshake, Madam Speaker, every person in the globe knows Kenya took off. And I want to commend him for that. Madam Speaker, not only the handshake was between him and Raila Amolo Odinga, my own party leader, Kalonzo Musyoka, the party leader of Wiper, joined in. And Madam Speaker, I am one of the beneficiaries of that handshake. As I stand here, I am the substantive chair of sports, culture, and tourism because of that understanding. That one brought harmony, understanding among all parties in this house. So, Madam Speaker, anybody, there are even people who are appointed as CSs, PSs out of that. That was showing some national look in the country. Madam Speaker, and the President himself spoke about BBI. I still support BBI because from where I sit, Madam Speaker, we have lost opportunities, particularly in my constituency, Mavoko, which has more than 500,000 people. I was going to benefit from the BBI in that we are going to have about 2 constituencies in one and more than 10 wards from that BBI. So, Madam Speaker, I am still of the opinion that we still revive BBI because it's going to bring more money for devolution, more administrative units. And, Madam Speaker, I want to invite my colleagues. Let us look at BBI as a development tool that will anchor all the development, for example, from 15% to 35%, that will be anchored in law, so that successive governments that come will not just be people operating within the whims of the president. And we avoid the winner takes it all. So, Madam Speaker, those few remarks, I really support the president's speech, and I want to tell Kenyans, let us support President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta for the remaining time so that we can reap a few benefits.
Very well. The member for Ruiru constituency, the Honorable Kingara Nganga. A point of order. Who is on point of order? I cannot see any intervention. And Honorable Makau has a right to, of course, I've not seen him to speak himself, including saying his own party leader, Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka, to be the president. Remember, this is a house of debate. Yes, let me have the member for Ruiru. You have the floor. The member for Ruiru constituency, you have the floor.
Asante sana Bi Speaker kwa kupatia mimi mwanya huu wa kuchangia hali ya taifa iliyoletwa mbele yetu jana na kiongozi wa nchi hii. La kwanza kabisa ni kumshukuru kwa sababu ya kuheshimu bunge na kuheshimu sheria na kuona ni vizuri atumie utaratibu uliotengwa kikatiba na kuweza kutekeleza kazi yake ile alipewa na wananchi. Kama vile wenzangu wamechangia pale mwanzo, ni vizuri kuheshimu na kuongea yale mema na mazuri yametendwa na viongozi hasa Uhuru Kenyatta. Na la muhimu sana ndio tuweze kutekeleza maendeleo ya aina yoyote, ni vizuri tuwe na mabarabara ya kupitia, na mnajua amechukua changamoto kubwa kuona mabarabara yametengenezwa kwa wingi, na vile vile haiwezi kaisha na siku ya kwanza.
half a century of independence, 11 elections, 3 presidents, and now Kenya heads to the polls in the country's biggest election ever. From the shores of the Indian Ocean to the peaks of Mount Kenya, the valleys of the Great Rift to the rainforest of the West, the vast arid plains of northern Kenya to the grasslands of the south. Right across the country, over 14 million voters will decide. Tonight, Martha Karua, Peter Kenneth, Uhuru Kenyatta, James Ole Kiapi, Musalia Mudavadi, and Raila Odinga interview for the country's top job in Kenya's first ever presidential debate. Who will emerge the first president of the Second Republic? Welcome to the Kenya Presidential Debate 2013. Your hosts, Linus Kaikai and Julie Gishuru.
Good evening. Welcome to the first of 2 presidential debates intended to give you a comprehensive picture of the candidates, their outlook on the issues, their policies, and their commitments on the matters that are of greatest concern to this nation. This debate has been organized by the Kenyan media and is coming to you live on all participating television and radio stations across the country. It is also streaming live online for the global audience.
The next 2 hours are unprecedented in the history of Kenyan elections. For the first time ever, presidential candidates have together agreed to submit themselves to a debate on relevant issues and pertinent national issues. 8 of the presidential candidates are here tonight to debate each other before an audience. The audience will maintain silence throughout the debate, except a few moments from now, when we will put our hands together to welcome the 2013 presidential candidates one by one.
Well, earlier, the Kenya Presidential Debates Steering Committee conducted a balloting session with the candidates to determine their order of entrance tonight and the podium position for each candidate. It's time now to welcome the presidential candidates, and tonight we begin with Mohamed Abduba Dida from the Alliance for Real Change Party. Let's give him a round of applause. We will ask you to take the front of the stage for the moment. Please do come forward.
Stand in front of the
right
podium.
there. Thank you so
next
much.
to your podium. Thank you very much. Thank you. And we welcome the second candidate tonight in order of balloting again, and that is Professor James Ole Kiapi of the Rebuild and Restore Kenya Party, RBK.
And next we have Uhuru Kenyatta from TNA, which is part of the Jubilee Alliance. Let's give him a round of applause.
And next on the stage tonight, we do have the presidential candidate of the Kenya National Congress, and that is the Honorable Peter Kenneth.
Also with us tonight, we have Musalia Mudavadi from UDF, part of the Amani Alliance. Let's give him a round of applause as well.
And now let's welcome to the stage the only female presidential candidate in this race, Martha Karua of the NARC Kenya Party.
Also with us tonight, Raila Odinga of ODM, part of the CORD Alliance.
And finally, the last candidate coming in tonight, the Honorable Paul Muite of the Safina Party. Welcome to you all, a list of 8 presidential candidates taking part in this debate tonight. And the debate will focus on broad thematic areas of governance, security, and social services. Each candidate will be expected to explain their position in 2 minutes and will be given additional time for rebuttals. The rules of engagement discussed and agreed by each candidate requires them to treat and address each other with respect.
Now, this debate has 2 main segments. Part 1, which is focused on governance, and Part 2, which includes questions from the audience. We thank you all for joining us, making time for this debate tonight. And at this point, ladies and gentlemen, let us all be upstanding for the national anthem. It is performed tonight by Carol Atemi.
Mungu nguvu yetu, ilete baraka kwetu, haki iwe ngao na mlinzi, na tukae na undugu, amani na uhuru, raha tupate na ustawi. Amkeni ndugu zetu, tufanye sote bidii, nasi tujitoe kwa nguvu. Nchi yetu ya Kenya tunayoipenda, tuwe tayari kuilinda na tujenge taifa letu. Ndio wajibu wetu. siku tuwe na shukrani.
Thank you. You may take your seats, and the presidential candidates, you may take your stands at the podiums. At this point, I hand over to Linus Kaikai to take us through part one of this crucial debate.
Thank you very much, and thank you once again, candidates, and welcome again to this debate. The first part is about self-introduction. We're not going into policies, we're just going into self-introduction. And this is your moment to do what you don't get to do in rallies. Tell us about yourself for 30 seconds. Who are you? And what is your strength? And in order of the ballot again, we will start with the candidate for the Alliance for Real Change, Mr. Abdul Badida.
Thank you so much. My name's Mohammed Abdul Badida. And I usually like using the title Mwalimu because I'm professionally trained and it is a noble profession, so I'm proud of it. I'm vying for the presidency, as you very well know, and my political party that nominated me is Alliance for Real Change, abbreviated ARK. Most of the media and many people mistake it for ARC, but the K is as per it appears.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Dida. That is, you have only 30 seconds to introduce yourself. Let's go to candidate on platform or podium number 2.
I'm James Olekiapi, and I've been a public official for 20 years, and I am very grateful to God today that I am here as one of the presidential candidates on this historic day in the Republic of Kenya. Good evening, viewers, and I'm glad to be with you.
Thank you, Professor Kiapi. Let's go to candidate on platform podium number 3.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Uhuru Kenyatta. I'm a proud Kenyan who has been in public service and as a politician for the last 15 years. I'm a husband, a father, and a person who is greatly committed to this country and who seeks to be given the opportunity to make my contribution to this country through the election that is due in the next few weeks.
Thank you, Honorable Kenyatta. Next candidate on podium number 4.
Thank you for having me here tonight. I am bothered by what I see as lack of basic facilities for our people. I'm here tonight because we must fix security, sort out infrastructure, fix water and sanitation, fix healthcare, and reform our educational system. We must grow our economy. I believe I have something unique to offer our country in terms of leadership. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And this is a moment of self-introduction, so you confirm that you are Peter Kenneth.
You had already said it.
That's right. Let's go to the next candidate, platform number 5.
I am Musalia Mudavadi. I'm the UDF presidential candidate in the Amani coalition. I wish to present myself to the Kenyan people so that I can serve them as the 4th president of the Republic of Kenya. I'm also pleased that I am part of this historic moment so that Kenyans can listen to us and evaluate us from a different perspective. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mudavadi. Candidate on number 6.
I'm Martha Karua, a mother, recently a grandmother. I grew up and did my early schooling in my home county, Kirinyaga. And thanks to my parents and the community around me, I learned the values of honesty, hard work, and community that is caring for others, values that have stood me in good stead today. You can trust that the promises I make to you will be delivered. I'm a woman of her own word.
Thank you, Honorable Karua. Candidate number 7 tonight.
Good evening, viewers. My name is Raila Amolo Odinga. I'm an engineer by profession. and the current Prime Minister. I am happy that this event is taking place today. History is being made. For the first time, presidential candidates are facing Kenyans to tell them what they want to do for them. I hope that this is now a step towards realizing the Kenyan dream as coined by the founding fathers of our nation, which is in our national anthem. I am going to spend time to tell Kenyans.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Honorable Odinga. We go to candidate number 8. You have 30 seconds to tell us about yourself, who you are, and indeed, what is your strength?
My name is Paul Muite, a lawyer by profession. In 1990, as chair of the Law Society, I was one of those who started on this journey towards a realization of the new constitution which we now have. Not as an end in itself, but a means to an end. I'll be talking a little later about that end. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you all candidates for introducing yourself. We're now going straight to the issues. And we had indicated to you the broad thematic areas, governance, national security, and social services. And I want us to begin with the single most serious problem in this country, the cancer that afflicts the politics, the elections and governance in this country, the problem of tribalism or ethnicity. Let's hear from each candidate for 2 minutes what your appreciation of the problem is and what you intend to do and how different you'll be from the predecessors of the president we are seeking to elect. That is Jomo Kenyatta, Daniel Arap Moi, and Mwai Kibaki, all who made tribe the base of their governments. Let's start with Mr. Dida.
Thank you so much. I think governance is actually the most crucial issue that contributed to the failure of this nation. And the only way out is full implementation of the Constitution.
Mr. Dida, let me remind you, we're talking about tribalism. What is your appreciation of the problem and what do you intend to do to be different from the previous presidents of this country?
Well, Kenyans, 90% of Kenyans are actually defeated by their own systems of life. And this issue of tribalism is a factor contributed by 5% of each community leaders who want to connect to the leading class. So if this issue of governance is sorted out and the constitution is fully implemented and everybody has his right, nobody will rush to the other because every Kenyan will have his or her own right. So it is a problem currently biting because of the current economic social situation in the country. If governance is corrected, then that is a forgotten story. It will go.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dida. 2 minutes for Professor Kiapi.
I just want to start at the outset by saying all Kenyans are born equal, irrespective of which part of the country. And I know that this country is enough for all of us. The reason why tribalism is a problem to us is because leaders have used it as a means of allocating resources and positions and therefore marginalizing other Kenyans. If our leaders and if today we would promise and commit to ourselves that we will share national resources equitably and that everybody is given a fair chance in life, then I don't have any reason to believe that Kenyans really hate each other that much, because we grew, we went to the same schools. I myself went to Alliance High School and I was the only Maasai boy in Form 1, but nobody looked at me as different. So I believe that it is the leadership that must address this issue.
And you haven't told us, you have a minute to go of your time, you haven't told us what you intend to do as president.
What I want to do as president is that I want a government of inclusion. A government where every Kenyan, irrespective of where they are, will look at those ministers, those permanent secretaries, those ambassadors. It will be done fairly and on merit. I want also a government that will share national resources fairly and equitably and in a way that all Kenyans feel that this is their country, because it is their country.
Thank you very much. Let's go to Honorable Kenyatta. Your appreciation of the problem of tribalism and how different you intend to be from the past 3 presidents.
Thank you. Let me begin by saying that tribalism is a cancer that has afflicted this country for a very long time and has been a source of conflict, has been a source of death, has been a source of destruction of property. And this we saw the worst of in the post-election violence of 2007. I personally believe that this problem is largely associated as a result of the battle for resources. And in the past, what we have seen is a position where positions of leadership go and people are made to assume that if your community is in leadership, therefore you will be entitled to a greater share of the cake. We have a new constitution now. That new constitution is very clear on what it requires of all of us as Kenyans. My job as president is to ensure that that constitution is implemented, but furthermore, to ensure that through devolution, something that I have tried practically when I was in the Ministry of Finance, we ensure that resources are distributed accordingly to every part of this country and ensure that the government that we form is an inclusive government that will ensure that every single Kenyan feels part and parcel of that government.
Just 45 seconds of your time are still on, and I would like to hear from you where the link is between a new constitution and the eradication of tribalism.
First and foremost, I think the constitution is now very clear, and there are very clear guidelines as to what politicians can say, especially during their campaigns. The use of ethnicity as a card in the campaign is something that the Constitution, for example, does not recognize anymore. So therefore, what has been happening in the past where you've had politicians saying or accusing communities, that isn't there. The hate speech that we have seen in the past, now we have laws that clearly control and ensure that that kind of language isn't allowed on any political platform. We cannot incite one another. We have to offer what it is our policies are that ensure that we eradicate poverty and deal with the real issues that are of concern to Kenyans.
Thank you, Honorable Kenyatta. Honorable Peter Kenneth, your appreciation of tribalism?
Yes, I grew up in this city, on the Eastlands part of it, specifically in Bahati, where all communities were represented and there was no tribalism. I had the opportunity to go to the Starehe Boys Center, where again was all communities represented. So I've not seen effect in my upgrowing of tribalism. Tribalism is an excuse that poor leadership and weak leadership gives to Kenyans. We come in and practice tribalism because we feel that if it is practiced, then that community A, where I come from, will benefit. We were never taught tribalism in primary. We never learnt it in any institution of learning. It is something to do with leadership, and I'll say poor leadership and weak leadership. Now, we have a new constitution. We've always had sets of laws. It is poor enforcement and implementation that continues to drive us to tribalism, because all forms of impunities, if they were dealt with at an efficient space and speed, we would not have all these levels of impunities. Now, I want to tell you this. In my plan, I have looked at equality, I have looked at equity, so that never again will Kenyans feel they are not equal, never again will Kenyans feel that one side of the country is inferior to the other. And I have to make this absolutely clear, that the fight over resources in my plan comes to an end.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Kenneth. We go to Honorable Mudavadi, and I want to remind all candidates, you're here to engage each other, and I hope you're listening to each other, because questions will then be coming up after this. Let's go to Honorable Mudavadi. Your appreciation of ethnicity, tribalism, and what you intend to do if elected president.
Tribalism is real. It is serious, We can try and parry around it, but the fact of the matter is that tribalism is real. And it comes out because there's a sense of insecurity. The way we have practiced our politics is that we have created a sense of insecurity amongst communities. We have reached a stage where we are telling a community, unless you are herded into one corner, then your interests are not properly taken care of. Now, we have an opportunity as a Kenyan people to be able to break away from this. And this is largely based on the issue of the new constitution. The new constitution makes it very clear that the way public resources are going to be distributed within the context of devolution, a formula is going to be put in place determined by Parliament. At the same time, the Constitution makes it very clear that communities that have hitherto been marginalized must not be marginalized. So the solution lies in implementing the Constitution to the letter. The other thing that really comes up is that as we move ahead, it will be very important that we take a public audit of the way our public service, and particularly even within the private sector, is constituting itself. Nobody should cheat ourselves. We should not cheat ourselves. It's so clear that if you did an audit, you will find that there are certain favoritisms that have been occurring in the appointment of public officers, and indeed, even within the private sector, where the shareholders, being based from one particular community, tend to favor people of their community. This must stop.
Thank you, Honorable Mudavadi. Let's go to Honorable Karua. Your appreciation of the problem of ethnicity and what you intend to do if elected president.
Tribalism is a social and economic issue, more about perceptions and also about how resources are distributed. In every ethnic community, we have a section of the poor. In some areas, more than in others. But there is no single ethnic community that does not have poor and desperate people. So it is the perception that because you're from community X, you have no problem, others are the ones having a problem. I think it's perpetuated more by leadership. We have to own up as leaders, take responsibility and lead people out of this. How I will deal with it as president, one is to ensure that we equalize all the areas in terms of development or bring them to as near as possible. And that is not just through the devolved funds, is by deliberately giving more funds to areas that have been hitherto marginalized. When our development across the country, across the 47 counties, is as nearly as equal as possible, nobody will listen to leadership talking about tribalism. But now the desperation leads people to believe that a person from your ethnic group will do better. Secondly, it will be through public education. Nobody gets their food every day from their tribe. It's from their sweat or their brow. And when a citizen is sleeping hungry, their tribe or the leader from their tribe is not with them. It's that person and their God. Therefore, we ought to unite together to develop our country, but as a leader, I'll lead from the front, and I'll ensure that in my government, there is inclusion, both in cabinet and in other jobs, as we fight this scourge.
Thank you very much. Let's go to Honorable Dinga.
Well, Linus, ethnicity is a disease of the elite. The elite who are in competition for the resources in the country resort to ethnicity as an ideology. When Kenyans were fighting for independence, they were so united. The movement for independence was very united. Ethnicity reared its ugly head immediately after independence when the nationalist movement split. The elites started to coerce leadership for allocation of resources. Down the road next door in Tanzania, Mwalimu Nyerere introduced a very unifying ideology that united the people of Tanzania. We now have a legal framework to deal with this animal that is called ethnicity. by ensuring that there is equity in allocation of resources in our country. If we faithfully implement this new constitution, then we'll be able to realize the Kenyan dream of our founding fathers. That is Kenya for all, not for just a few elites, by ensuring that all parts of the country get equity in terms of allocation of resources, that we promote education for all our children, that every Kenyan has access to Medicare, that all the social amenities are available to everybody. But much importantly, that people are united at the national level. When somebody goes on a national screen and flaunts ethnic figures to say that because our candidates come from these communities, because of this election has already been won at the time of registration, it is a very dangerous proposition because it basically rubbishes the other communities. We in CORD know that we have a solution to this problem.
And your time is up. Let's go to Honorable Muite.
I would begin by saying we need to accept we are 42 different ethnic communities in Kenya, speaking different mother tongues. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with that, because all these 42 communities are human beings with the same aspirations, same needs, and what have you. It is negative ethnicity that is a problem. And that comes about because of the high levels of poverty in this country, because of corruption, because of impunity. So people feel insecure and wrongly believe that they can only advance economically and socially if one of their own is in power. How would Safina tackle this problem? It would tackle this problem by rearranging the economic social problems so as to target the majority poor, like harvesting rainwater from Pokot through to Turkana, everywhere, including Masaini, so as to give opportunity. We can grow everything. Let's start with the basics. Let us begin by feeding ourselves adequately, because it is a shame that every 3-4 years we have to go begging food, and yet we can feed ourselves. Let us invest in agriculture, research, so as to come up with high-yielding seed varieties from cotton to maize to everything. Value adding to what we propose. I think if people felt economically secure, they will think less and less of their ethnic communities, because everybody needs the same things. Thank you.
Now, candidates, viewers watching you at home and even here in the audience, having listened to your opening statements on ethnicity, would then wonder why some things are done the way they're done. And I want to refer all of you, and some of you specifically, to campaigns, current campaigns. None of you have referred to the campaigns, and I want to refer you to that. Campaigns have taken the shape of a contest between tribes or blocks of tribes. I want to specifically put on the spot CORD, the Honorable Odinga, and Jubilee, the Honorable Uhuru Kenyatta, to immediately, right now, respond to that perception that both of you are indeed leading tribes or blocks of tribes, and specifically against each other. Starting with Honorable Uhuru.
Thank you very much. Let me say this. Our platform is a platform that has been built on issues. If you have followed and listened to the speeches that we have made with my running mate, the Honorable William Ruto, throughout the country, we have emphasized the need for us to be able to focus on the real issues that affect our people: unemployment, poverty, the social infrastructure, the need for us to be able to pull together as Kenyans, the need for us to be able to be united and understanding that the best way to deal with our problems is not for leaders to be pulling apart, but working together. Despite our own personal differences, we need to pull together. Now, it is indeed true that numbers are being bandied around. But those numbers, if you look, are largely also being bandied around by the political analysts who are out there. just as there's language that is also...
But would you admit, Honorable Kenyatta, that your campaign revolves around the Kikuyu and Kalenjin communities?
I would completely disagree. If you would look at where we have had all our rallies so far, I have not had a single rally yet in Central Province since I was nominated. We have been campaigning in the Coast Province. We have been campaigning up in Meru. We were in Rift Valley the other day. We're moving on to Lower Eastern, where we intend to be. So we've been up to Kuria. So we are actually conducting a national campaign, a campaign that is aimed at bringing all Kenyans together with a purpose of forming a government that will be all-inclusive and that will deal with the real issues that face common mwananchi in this
country. Bringing Kenyans together, Honorable Kenyatta, and when you were in Meru last month, when you asked a certain region not to divide their vote, what do you mean?
Well, what I am saying is, if we understand and we are moving on the same platform, we saw a situation where, for example, you have a number of candidates in a particular constituency, all saying they support the same presidential candidate, but yet they are on different platforms. And I said, if we really want to implement the agenda that we have, given our new constitution, given the strength and the powers that have been given to Parliament, if we don't have the necessary numbers in Parliament to implement our agenda, it is going to make it difficult. So I was saying, if you have 2 or 3 or 4 candidates claiming to support me, then I say, then we need to be in one party so that we can implement the agenda and the promises that we're making in Parliament.
We'll come back to you, the Honorable Kenyatta. Let me go to Honorable Odinga. And I want to take you back to 2002, 2005, 2007, and now. Your politics revolve around building or getting appointment from tribes. I'm talking about a summit, 2002. I'm talking about the Orange campaign against the new constitution in 2007. I'm also talking about the Pentagon in 2007. And now lately, you talk of a triangle, all made up of appointment from regions. Isn't this tribalism, Mr. Odinga?
First, Linus, Kenyans must come from certain regions. They cannot be invented from the moon. So people come together for a particular purpose. Like now you have got CORD. It's a coalition of the willing. People who have come together because of certain values that they share together. In 2002, that was the 3rd time that the opposition was going for an election. Remember, we lost in 92, we lost also again in 97. So in 2002, we decided to come together and rally behind one person. That's why I said Kibaki Tosha. That was to unite the people of Kenya, to unite the people. Said the Luos could not vote for Kibaki because it was a Kikuyu, and no Luo can vote for a Kikuyu. I said Kikuyus are Kenyans, and there was never a war between Luos and Kikuyus. And I managed to campaign for Kibaki, that Kibaki got majority of votes. You need to know that James Orengo, a Luo, was also a presidential candidate in 1992.
That was 2002. That was 2002, Honorable Odinga. Yes. But isn't it true that in the 2005 and 2000 votes, your mathematics was a simple 42 minus 1? And you know what I mean?
That is a creation of the media. Nowhere did anybody talk about 41 versus 1. That was actually a propaganda. We talked of uniting all the people of Kenya, and we were running against an incumbent who happened to come from one particular community. But ODM was basically a national movement which brought in the communities from all over the country, like CORD today. CORD is a national movement which has brought Kenyans of all walks of life, different communities. And we have never talked about ethnicity. It is our opponents who are bringing ethnic figures to try to intimidate the other communities by saying that, oh, this election has already been won because the candidate and this running mate come from this community, and so many are the votes which are registered in this community. We are saying that basically misses the point. The point is that every Kenyan matter, whether it's an El Molo, the smallest tribe, or a Kikuyu, the biggest tribe. Let us work together to unite the people of this country. This is what God stands for. One Kenya, one nation, for all. For all.
And I'm going to the rest of the candidates now, but before I go there, still to Uhuru and Raila, the question of the rivalry between the Kikuyu and the Luo communities, which is at the epicenter of the Kenya's ethnicity problem. There are people who view you, a lot of people view you as taking it on from where your fathers left it. Jomo Kenyatta and Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, both of you picking it up from 69. Uhuru.
Kenya has come a long way since then. And I want to remind those Kenyans who maybe have that feeling that they just need to look back into recent history. You know, as late as 1997, we were together with the Honorable Raila in the Kanu government. And we campaigned together until the time of Kasarani. We parted ways and he went to support Mwai Kibaki. Soon thereafter, the 2005 referendum. Again, we campaigned on the same platform and he led the No campaign for the Constitution at the time. And I supported him and campaigned throughout the country. So personally, I have no differences with the Honorable Raila. I see him as a colleague, I see him as a brother, but we may differ on how to handle some of the issues that face this country. And I think that is why we have elections, so that the people of Kenya are given an opportunity to choose between the candidates.
Honorable Odinga?
No, I basically agree totally with my brother, Uhuru Kenyatta. We have nothing personal between each one of us. In fact, we are best of friends. And you remember, if you go down the memory lane, my father spearheaded the struggle for release of Jomo Kenyatta from prison. He was a Luo, Kenyatta was a Kikuyu, but they were united. In 2002, I said Kibaki Tosha. Kibaki is a Kikuyu, but I said Kikuyus are Kenyans. So we managed to unite the people behind him. We disagreed on the issue of MOU and on the Constitution. And on that issue of the Constitution, me and my brother Uhuru Kenyatta were on the same side. We campaigned for a no, and that's where the orange was born against the banana. But now we want to see that Kenyans make an informed choice on basis of policies. Jubilee has got a policy document. CORD has got a policy document.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Odinga. And I want to bring in the rest of the candidates now on this issue of ethnicity, particularly what is emerging tonight, and generally that greater responsibilities lies with CORD and Jubilee on the question of ethnicity. And I want to bring in Martha Karua.
What I would like to say is that Kenyans can hear for themselves today, the leaders denying that there is no tribal overtones. Kenyans are the judges. And I would like to tell Kenyans that there is no difference between a poor Luo, a poor Kikuyu, a hungry member of any tribe, and we are better off uniting and fighting together to liberate ourselves from hunger, to liberate ourselves from lack of access to medical services, to get ourselves better education. We are better united and following the denial, because no politician will admit they are peddling tribalism. Following our denials here, my urging to Kenyans, please do not allow us to mislead you. No tribe puts food on your table. It is you, your God, and the opportunities that you have. Why don't we join hands to create opportunities for every Kenyan? I look forward to the day that our laws will be properly applied so that any leader who makes speeches that are inciting ethnicity, irrespective of their social standing, is actually made to account under our laws.
Thank you very much. And now for the remaining candidates, I'll give them 30 seconds each, starting with the Honorable Mudavadi. Your campaign also is seen to be focusing on Western Kenya
No, I think you've got it wrong. That is absolutely false, because we are traversing the entire country. We are campaigning in the entire country. A few days ago, I was in the coastal region, and I intend to go to other parts of the country, and in Nairobi. So that is not true. But I stand here in a very unique position. I'm one of the few people standing here today who has supported Uhuru for the presidential candidate in 2002 and supported Honorable Raila as a president in 2007 elections. So clearly, from that perspective, the tag of tribalism should be distanced from me.
Thank you very much. Honorable Kenneth.
Well, I'm very surprised tonight because we are being economical with truth. We need to look at the Kenyans right straight into the eye. We have wiped tribal emotions since we became a multi-party state. That's why we have hundreds of Kenyans in IDP camps. It is tribal emotions. And this is why we must now start discussing issues. We must start being realistic. We now must start thinking that we must elect what is right, not what is convenient. We must break away the historical bondage that we've been tied to in the last 50 years.
Thank you, Kenneth. And let's go to Professor Kiapi. Professor Kiapi, you come from a very small tribe, and we're talking about big numbers, big ethnic numbers. Do you think you count?
I count because I believe that the Kenyan, many Kenyan people are also tired of what I'm tired of. And I want to say this. The formula in Kenya since 1960s has always been near election time, the leaders who want power, and there's nothing wrong getting power, must always sit down and look at the ethnic arithmetic, and then you know which block you can pull. And in between, the nation will be and has been divided right down the middle. And I think that was the reason that informed RBK, my party, Restore and Build Kenya, to resist the temptation to be part of blockings that will continue to divide Kenya. And it doesn't matter how long it will take, we will pursue that philosophy that we want a country that is one and united in every way, including in our own party.
Thank you very much. We need to move to the next topic, but Dida, on the question of ethnicity that we discussed here.
Yeah, this issue of fear, insincerity, and betrayal that these leaders may swallow us started in 1965 when KADU was formed. One stylistic device that is commonly used in the Kenyan administrative system is irony, where you talk exactly opposite of what you mean. And it has gone, now it is dramatic. Who were the leaders for all those times when we are discussing tribalism in the 21st century? Who were those who were in the box leading? The same leaders are trying to, if your football team fails scoring or winning and you change their uniform, it won't help. Dear Kenyans, listen well, and it is up to you to judge.
Thank you very much. Honorable Moita, do you agree that the players are the same, the judges are different?
Well, first of all, let me say how pleased I am to hear the Right Honorable Prime Minister saying that the mantra of 41 versus 1 was a creation of the media, and the media does very many crimes. But it needs to be renounced more and more and more. But let us admit that ethnicity is a major challenge in our politics today. Poses a very major challenge. And really, the route to eradicating ethnicity is through empowerment, economic and social empowerment. Because every person, irrespective of their tribe, wants adequate clean water, decent housing, access to affordable health care, and so on and so forth. So let us move towards getting Kenyans to ask us as leaders, how are you going to improve my economic, social situation, rather than vote for me because I come from your tribe.
Right. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to bring this to a conclusion and go to the next question. You may remember from the dailies yesterday, we had a look at them. There was a caricature of this debate. And right behind you was a huge elephant. a very, very big elephant towering over all the candidates. We now want to bring the elephant into the room, and that is the ICC question. And I want to begin with Uhuru Kenyatta. Your trial for crimes against humanity begins in April. For 2 minutes, Honorable Kenyatta, provide the public with a clear plan of how you intend to govern if elected president, and at the same time attend trial as a crimes against humanity suspect.
Thank you. And I have said this severally. First and foremost, the issue of the crimes that we are accused of. We have not been found guilty in any way whatsoever. This is an ongoing case, and we and my deputy have made it very clear that it is indeed our intention to follow the process through and to ensure that we clear our names. At the same time, we are offering ourselves in a position of leadership in this country, a position that we believe and we want to pass on to Kenyans, an agenda that will first and foremost ensure that the kind of things that caused the problems of 2007 are put to an end, and to really be able to focus on the critical issues that face the people of Kenya. As I have said, the issue of poverty, the issue of unemployment, lack of basic services. And it is on that platform that we are campaigning. Now, like with everybody else, and I'm getting there, like with everything else.
We need some clarity, Honorable Kenyatta.
Yes.
The question is, how will you govern if elected president in the first round, for example, your trial is in April?
I was getting to that point, and what I was saying is that the way it currently is, many Kenyans are faced with personal challenges, and I take this as a personal challenge. I'm sure that my colleagues here also have other challenges. But those challenges do not prevent one from continuing with their day-to-day job. If the people of Kenya do decide to vote for me as their president, I will be able to handle the issue of clearing my name, while at the same time ensuring that the business of government continues, our manifesto and our agenda for Kenya is implemented, and furthermore, even if we look at the current situation, the ICC itself, in recognition of the fact that there may be this issue, are even saying we can move this case closer by. In 2 days' time, and we are in the middle of a campaign, we will be having a status conference. That status conference will be handled through video conferencing. The business of government will not end.
Honorable Kenyatta, just a moment. Mr. Dida, you want to interject on this?
Yeah.
Sure, go ahead.
According to the culture of justice, if you are found suspected of a crime, the norms that we had is you step aside until you are cleared. If there is nothing with you and you are found not guilty, then you resume your office. Why is it different with Uhuru and his friends?
Okay, Honorable Kenyatta.
Let me state this. The position I am looking for is an elective position, not an appointive position. The position I seek is given by the people of Kenya through their democratic, which is their democratic right. And it is also my democratic right to present myself to Kenyans. They know full well the issues that I am confronted with. If they so choose to elect me, it means they have confidence in my ability to discharge my duties as president while still handling the case that is before me.
Thank you. And some of your opponents have raised the ICC issue as an integrity question in the campaign trail, and I want to bring in Martha Karua because you've been on record about the ICC question.
Yes, I consider it a matter of display of impunity. Like what the opponent, Mr. Ndida, has indicated. We have laws, the Public Officers Ethics Act. If you're just suspected of crime and you're a public officer, you're supposed to step aside to facilitate investigations. We have another law, the anti-corruption law. It demands if you're a public officer and you are charged with a criminal offense, you actually stand suspended. You have to be suspended pending the outcome. So since the charges were framed, my brother ought to have been suspended as a deputy prime minister, and if he gets elected president, the question is, are you going to be suspended before taking oath or after taking oath? Any Kenyan can go to court to challenge the position in office, because as our law stands, there is that hurdle. Yeah.
And Kenyatta has a right of reply to your remarks.
I want to be very clear again. The job that I seek is going to be given by the people of Kenya. The people of Kenya who full well know the personal issues that I am confronted with. If they so desire to still give me that job, and it is indeed my hope that they will, it means they have the confidence in my capacity to discharge my duties as president while still proceeding to clear my name. Secondly, I think we need to distinguish between an appointed position, of which that is not what I'm seeking, and an elective one. An elective one, not with anything hidden, but with Kenyans knowing full well the charges that are before me. So therefore, as far as I am concerned, and there is a case already in court, and I do believe that case will be heard, I think it's this week, and the issue of the integrity question will be, without a doubt, resolved.
And I'll give the rest of the candidates 30 seconds, starting with Peter Kenneth on the same issue.
Yes. First of all, I voted for the local tribunal, and we didn't succeed. Because I also feel we have put too much concentration on the 4 indicted persons. And we have many Kenyans out there who are still languishing in very poor situations arising from that event of the last election. For me, I would go with the presumption of innocence until proved guilty. I would like to defeat my brother in a proper electoral process rather than have him eliminated, so that we can square the ball out squarely. But I also want to say this. Article 10 of our Constitution on national values and Chapter 6 are very key, and we need to address them even as we address the issue of ICC.
Thank you. Honorable Mudavadi.
Yes, I think this is a very delicate matter for the people of Kenya. One of the important things that we must figure out is that as we try to come to the next election, what is the destiny of the Kenyan nation? This is absolutely essential when we are conducting ourselves and conducting our politics. Nobody should actually be facing trial outside Kenyan soil. That is something I believe in, and that is something I also voted for, so that we had we wanted a local tribunal. But the point I'm trying to make here, and I want to make it very quickly, is that there are definitely implications on how the Kenyans will conduct their vote. This is something that we have to grapple with. They have a freedom to make the choice, but we are seeing dangerous signals that need to be thought through by the Kenyan people.
But 5 of you here were in that cabinet that failed to bring the trials to Kenya, make it a local process. Are you then admitting failure of leadership on your part?
We are not admitting failure of leadership on our part. I think we are dealing with a situation where people did not understand a situation at that particular moment in time. And I want to say that I, and indeed some of the people who are here, fought so forcefully to have this matter handled through a local mechanism. But there was also an equally potent member of our parliament, potent members of our parliament, who thought that they would rather have this thing handled outside. And they carried the day at that time. But on this one, I can tell you that quite a number of us stood for a local mechanism.
Right. Honorable Odinga.
Every Kenyan knows how I stood on this particular matter. Kofi Annan actually warned us about The Hague. and me and President Kibaki spent nearly 8 hours in Parliament trying to convince our colleagues to vote for a local tribunal. Unfortunately, 2 of my colleagues who are now in The Hague are the ones who led the campaign against a local tribunal. Unfortunately, I am the one who is now being accused of having taken people to The Hague, because nothing could be further from the truth. I do not want to eliminate any kind of competition. That's why I would rather have my brother on the ballot. But I know that it will pose serious challenges to run a government by Skype from The Hague. I know that it's not practical. Thank you.
Honorable Moite.
My plea is to spare a thought for the victims, the 1,300 people, Kenyan people, innocent, who were murdered, who were killed, leaving behind relatives, the many women and men who were raped. Let us spare a thought for the victims. Let us also agree that we cannot continue with a culture of impunity. But having said that, the way to tackle the issue of impunity is to go to the highest levels where it is to be found. And I must say that as a lawyer, having read the Rome Statute, I know because the ICC cannot handle the cases of everybody or accused persons, jurisdiction is limited to those holding the highest responsibility. A Safina government would revisit the issue of jurisdiction. The Honorable Uhuru Kenyatta, and he has not asked me to hold his brief, was not a presidential candidate. If you are going to charge 6 people, you must begin with number 1, number 2 to number 6. You cannot begin with 3, 4, 5, and 6. And I wonder whether there was blinking on the part of the office of the prosecutor. The Safina government would like to revisit that so that those holding the highest responsibility perhaps go to the dock there, the others can be dealt with here in accordance with the law.
Are you talking about presidential candidates and therefore the colleague to your right, Raila Odinga, it should be in the list?
Wow. 2 people were presidential candidates. It is impossible. You cannot persuade my mind or the minds of many rational people that the 2 candidates did not know about it. It's only these other 4 Kenyans who are facing the charges there, and the 2 candidates did not have a clue about it. That is an issue I would want to see investigated. As a Safina government, we would revisit that issue.
Honorable Odinga, your response to that?
That is a most irresponsible statement that ever was ever made. Because my friend needs to know that investigation was carried out by a commission which was appointed through the Serena process, led by Justice Waki, which then produced the list of names which were handed over to Kofi Annan, who was the leader of the process. And then that list was handed over to Mr. Ocampo. Me, I don't fear, because I have nothing to hide. I know exactly what I did, and I know that I was not responsible. And I would be very willing to go to The Hague if Honorable Moite would want to take me there.
Yeah, Martha.
I just wanted to disprove that the 2 principles actually pushed for the local tribunal. I was Minister of Justice then. The entire cabinet passed the bill, but when I reached Parliament, they left me with the baby. The 2 principals, in spite of my pleas to them, failed to come and persuade members. They merely came to vote, and in their full view, there was rebellion, cabinet pushing people to vote, to refuse to vote for the local tribunal. So to put the record straight, the 2 principals did not stand in Parliament and persuade their troops to vote for the local tribunal.
And one of the principals is here,
right here with us.
Yes.
Yes. You know, I really just want to jog the memory of my dear sister here. That first we had a joint PG meeting of PNU and ODM, co-chaired by President Kibaki and myself in the old chambers, pleading with the members to agree to vote for the local tribunal. This is record, even the Hansard will bear us out, that we tried as much to persuade all the members to vote for a local tribunal. But the clarion call was, don't be vague, let us go to The Hague, unfortunately.
But Prime Minister, why is it very difficult for a lot of people to believe your position on the ICC question? The common perception is you put a front that looks like you support a local process when indeed you wanted your opponents out of the country.
In fact, we first set up a cabinet committee on ICC, chaired by the late Professor Saitoti. I think it was the former Attorney General. There was also Tula Kilonzo, James Orengo, Amason Kingi, and so on. They went first to Geneva, then they went to The Hague, where Mr. Ocampo told him he was not interested in coming to Kenya. If Kenyans can agree to set up a local tribunal, the ICC would not get involved. So we tried everything possible. The second time we went to the cabinet, when Martha had already resigned from the government, it was shot down in the cabinet. And the two who are now in The Hague led the campaign in the cabinet to shoot down the proposal to set up a local tribunal.
Yeah, finally on this question. Okay, Honorable Kenyatta.
I think there's a discrepancy there because he just said cabinet passed it. It was rejected on the floor of parliament, so we couldn't have led an onslaught in cabinet because I think we were all together in cabinet, we approved it, and on the floor, I think Martha is quite correct, that on the floor there was complete confusion, there was no guidance, and as many members of the ODM team, as many members of the PNU disagreed with the position. So it was not, as my brother Raila would put it, that he mobilized his troops to vote for a local process, because his own troops rebelled on that particular position with regard to this document.
30 seconds.
No, the troops that rebelled from ODM are troops who were loyal to my friend William Ruto, and whom he had told to vote against it. Yet the troops who were loyal to me voted for a local tribunal to be set up here. But then I was saying that there was a second attempt after Martha had resigned from the government by Mutula Kilonzo. He redrafted the bill, brought it to the cabinet. It was not approved. It was rejected in the cabinet through the intervention of my friends.
Are you satisfied with that?
I think the Hansard record and voting record will prove that it was actually not that way.
Thank you. Professor Kiapi.
I wanted to make 2 points. And the first one is that it doesn't really matter now what we did or didn't do. The judicial process at The Hague is on. And for me, the question Kenyans must ask and the answers must be given is whether or not my brother here should run for president. And that can be given by our courts. And if our courts fail to give the answer, he himself can give the answer by saying, I'll step aside in view of this until I clear myself, and I don't want to engage the country in this matter. And if he himself, of course, refuses to do that, then he has actually put the ball to the Kenyan people that he is running, and let the Kenyan people decide. And I think it's very, very important as a country that we don't continue to always bury our head.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Kiapi. Your time is up. Let me go back to Martha. Your hand was up.
I just wanted to remind my worthy colleague here, Honorable Raila, there was no vote on the local tribunal because for a constitutional debate, you need 148 members. Those who didn't want a local tribunal literally whipped people out of parliament. I was left there pleading for them to come back. So there was no vote.
Now, finally, in closing this matter, I'll come back to you, but on a different issue, totally on the same. Just in closing that particular issue of the ICC, all of you are presidential candidates, and each one of you stands a chance of being next president. And just looking at what the ICC question has done to the country, the exchange with diplomats, and the perception that local systems don't work, that is why some of the Kenyans ended up in The Hague. What do you feel about this, because there are Kenyans who are embarrassed about this, starting with leader. 30 seconds, please, and please keep to your time.
Yeah, it doesn't matter where you are taken for justice, whether to Tanzania or Europe or here in Kibera. Justice is justice unless you have intentions to compromise. But I just wanted to advise Kenyans and the leaders. Personally, my personal view about ICC will need some time. But what I'm saying is, if anybody is not comfortable with the idea, then you need to give up and just give room. Listen, you know, Kenya is not an island. The outside world is speaking, Kenyans are speaking. Unless a leader is saying, I have numbers in my community, I will look for another community. If I add the two, whatever the world says, I will make it. Unless you're thinking like that, it is comfortable. I don't know why a junior clerk should be forced to step aside and a minister should. I don't know that disparity. Why are we given the metallic stand? Is it the same thing that we are discussing?
Thank you. Thank you very, very much. Let's go to Professor Kiep.
For me, there are two key things in our country, and one of them is that we must build the capacity of our institutions. We must do that, whether it is the judiciary or parliament, we must build the capacity. But the second and most important is
the question, Professor, and we have 15 seconds left, is the image of the country as perceived after the ICC question.
Yeah, the image of the country is obviously everybody's looking at us, because one, we failed to use our own local processes, and now the whole world is wondering how Kenya is going to pull out of this. And we need leadership for that.
Thank you very much. Uhuru.
There was a lot of misgiving. And I think it was that misgiving which was used in the 2007 election, that our courts could not be trusted. That is why some of us here went to the street. The disrepute of our courts started there. And it caused us a lot of problem, but we now have a new constitution. We want to build on the institutions that we have. We want to build and rebuild the judiciary to restore confidence in the people with our own judicial system. And that is something that I, as president, will continue to support as I continue, because that is the circumstance we find ourselves in, clearing our name through the international court where we are currently present.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Kenyatta. Honorable Kenneth.
Kenya is greater than all of us. And national interest must prevail over individual interests. And we must ensure that Kenya's best interests are in place. I am saying that because if we do not place Kenya first, and we look at our own individualism and look at it and square it out, it will not help Kenya. Kenya will live beyond all of us.
Thank you, Honorable Davidi.
It definitely puts us in a very awkward situation as a nation. And I would say that I would want to appeal to the Kenyans out there that this is not a laughing matter at all. This is indeed a very, very serious matter. And a serious decision has got to be made, because once we get to the ballot, and we hope we all can get to the ballot, you must ask yourself, is your vote a vote that is being cast for the Kenyan people, for the nation, or is it simply a vote that you're casting for a particular individual? I think all of us will embody certain aspects of nationhood. And I think that is important, that it comes out clearly when the voting is done.
Thank you. The issue is the image of the country. Honorable Martha Karua.
Yes, the image of Kenya definitely suffers, but rightly so, because we have a judiciary that is reforming, but the entire criminal justice system has not been reformed. The judiciary alone cannot make it. We need a reformed prosecutor's office. We need a reformed investigations office and corrections services. would move as president to make sure that the reforms of the criminal justice system are all-encompassing so that Kenya never suffers any other time. And let us remember that the IDPs, the victims of the clashes, have not had justice. And justice is key to reconciliation.
Thank you very much. Honorable Odinga.
Kenya is a sovereign country, a sovereign nation. We discuss our issues not at the behest of the international community. We need to do what we think is right for this country. And people of Kenya should make an informed choice in electing their leadership without interference. But I believe very strongly that our judiciary right now has the capacity to deal with this issue and give direction to the country.
Right. Finally, Honorable Muita.
We need to be proud as Kenyans that we have a new progressive constitution, very good constitution, setting up independent institutions and commissions. The challenge is implementing fully and faithfully this new constitution. When we do that, the image of Kenya outside will change automatically. By and large, we got it right with the institution of the judiciary. But the institution of the police is being faced with challenges, as we are all reading, some acrimony between the Police Service Commission, the Inspector General, the Office of the President, the Oversight Authority. Something appears not to have gone quite right with the recruitment of those who are serving in the Police Service Commission. So we need to get that right for the judiciary to be effective. But it is humiliating to see ourselves as a nation being talked down to by other nations. But it is because of corruption, impunity, failure of leadership, and the begging culture. If we can stand on our own, economically and socially, we shall be respected and we shall not be talked down to.
Right. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to close the issue of ICC and move to the final issue of this part one of the presidential debate. And the issue now is on party politics. If we don't get the construction or the foundation right, you can't expect to get right the rest of the structure. And I want to go to the issue of political parties right now. What are you, as party flag bearers, doing to make sure that the country departs from the culture of temporary political parties that are formed and disbanded, formed shortly before the election and then disbanded thereafter? Dida, we're hearing of the Alliance for Real Change for the first time. Most people will tell you that.
How many minutes do I have?
1 minute.
Yeah, Alliance for Real Change is a product of the new constitution and is the voice of the hopeless. What we have in mind is working with the registrar of political parties, the IEBC, to ensure that the code of conduct and peace prevails in this nation.
But are you concerned that it just came up the other day when you were presenting your papers that there is a party called...
When a teacher moves, you know, I was teaching 40 students in a class, and whatever message I was giving the students, I realized the 40 million Kenyans are lacking in the same. So I just expanded my class. I just want to teach the 40 million Kenyans that, you know, we cannot survive on hide and games. You cannot cry when people are crying. You go and you laugh when people are laughing. We need to be principled. And all what we are saying is just the contrary of what we do. So I tried, we registered this party to clean up the legislature and the executive. But when I saw all aspirants mad of money, I was just gesturing where money is. And I told them we have, because all candidates were arguing that why should I go for a certificate of good conduct, chapter 6 of the Constitution, when it has been scrapped by what Kenyans refer to as vultures. So when we realized that the legislator cannot be corrected at this particular time, and then I thought we should base on the executive, and then for the next 5 years work on how we can work on.
So how old is your party?
Yeah.
How old is your party?
My party, in terms of thought, we are very old because.
Okay, thank you very much.
In paper.
Thank you very much. Your time is up. Let's give 2 minutes to Professor Kiapi to talk about parties. Yes.
RBK, Restore and Build Kenya, is a party, it's a grassroots party that many of us formed, professionals, people who just wanted to do politics differently. And we were not afraid not to be branded as, non-starters in terms of the political game. But we wanted to stick to the values of restoration of the values of this country, hope to our young people, empowerment to everybody, a party of integrity where leadership can be trusted. And we build this, and I'm very glad because in terms of efficiency of organization, we are actually an example of how a grassroots organization can grow and be something with minimal resources. All of you knew that I was a public official, I was a civil servant. You
have 10 seconds, Professor. Let me just quickly ask you, if you are defeated, if you don't become president, will RBK remain in place?
But it is already remaining in place. It refused to join alliances to get lost. So it is a party beyond the election. It's a party of the future.
Thank you, Honorable Kenyatta. TNA Jubilee.
As many of you know, I was the chairman of KANU for a good number of years. But after disagreements within the party that we were unable to resolve, I found it necessary to start my own political party in order to be able to group together with other individuals, other like-minded individuals, and to build on a platform where we would have issues drive our agenda. It is unfortunate, but the KANU party was not willing to open itself up to alliances at that time with other parties, which I thought was necessary. We needed to start reducing the number of parties that we had in order to be able to come up with parties that are able to focus on issues, fewer parties that we can build, strengthen, build structures around. And that is why when we formed our party, immediately we embarked to try and look for partners who we could at least enter into this election with and build on and hopefully merge to create a strong political foundation that would be issue-based and that would be able to survive personalities or individuals for that matter.
Thank you very much. 2 minutes up. Honorable Kenneth.
Kenya National Congress is one of the oldest parties. It was formed at the advent of multi-party politics in 1992. And I'm hoping that we can develop ideology so that the party can continue surviving as it has survived in the last 20 years and survive many more years thereafter. I was a little disappointed when Parliament passed the party hopping date from October to January 4th. Then again, nearer January 4th, Parliament again shifted the party hopping date to 18th of January. And beyond that, we are aware that the Registrar of Political Parties was still allowing party shift after the 18th of January. It is important that enforcement of rules are clear and that laws that are created are not torpedoed by Parliament. We need a serious Parliament that will stick to the laws that are enacted to protect the gains of political parties.
I'll give you an additional 30 seconds just to explain to viewers and people watching this debate why you would pick a party that is from the days as back as 1992. What ideological link between your thoughts and that of KNC did you follow, or you just picked it as a vehicle of the election?
No, I actually picked KNC quite about 4 years ago. And we've been working with the German Foundation to try and create an ideology party-based. And therefore, we've been very, very clear. I do not hold any position. And KNC should survive as it has survived in the last 20 years, and many more years beyond my stay as its party leader for this presidential election.
Honorable Mudavadi.
Yes, thank you.
Your philosophy on parties.
I think what we have now is that we will need to relook at the legislation around political parties, because whether we go into the age of the party or not, I think there are some fundamental issues about the law regarding political parties that will need to be looked at. One of the problems that we had towards the end of the last parliament, the 10th parliament, was the crash program of trying to pass so many pieces of legislation, all revolving on matters to do with election. And believe you me, it is better for us to admit that certain pieces of that legislation were not well thought out. Therefore, in my view, if we want to build parties based on ideology, based on a long-term basis, we will need to revisit that legislation. We have seen shifts even during the nomination process. We have to properly democratize our parties, have serious internal democracy in our political parties, so that there's sufficient confidence being built with the membership of those parties. So that is what I would say.
Thank you, Honorable Mudavadi. Honorable Karua, your philosophy on parties.
Yeah, parties form government and are supposed to be vehicles of democracy. I believe a government is as good as the political party that forms it. And this is what informed the political parties law 2007, which I tabled when I was minister. Parties are supposed to have an ideology to pull people together. In Kenya, we are social democrats. Right from our constitution, it is stated the issues that matter to us is about social justice, equity, to see that the vulnerable in society are protected, issues of human dignity and inclusivity. And I would say that it's unfortunate, the political parties law has not been enforced properly. We need to strengthen the office of the registrar. We need to appoint new people as per the constitution, but